So, so how do you describe the beauty of God? So either you don't say anything, or then that's not helpful to anybody, or you do the best you can. So you compare God's beauty to emeralds, and well, lotus was seen as an exquisite act of creation. Beautiful shape, beautiful texture, beautiful color. And so you'll see lotuses everywhere, lotus eyes, lotus feet, and so forth. Anyway, so the Lord with the lotus eyes, it's even in the invocation that we will recite. So Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Akanda Mandala Karam Yena Vyaptam Characharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dinabandhu Jagat Pate, Gopesha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe, Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hare Priye. Apavitra Pavitro Va, Sarvavastha Gatopi Va, Ya Smaret Pundarikaksham, the one with the lotus eyes, Sa Bhayabhyantara Shuchi. So Sebastian, as a follow-up, a little bit of information for us from last week in terms of one of the ways that the Maha Mantra, the great mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Hare Ram Maha, the great mantra, there's various ways the words can be rendered, but he's going to share the way that, at least even within a tradition, even within the Gaudiya traditions, you might find it rendered in different ways. The Sanskrit root krish means to attract. Hri means to drag or steal. So it could be, Krishna steals your heart. There's lots of ways of rendering, but Sebastian will give us a bit more information on that. So Krishna means krish, to attract. So the attractive one, the all attractive. And Ram is the root to enjoy or to give pleasure. So let's, Sebastian, so you've been in touch with Babaji, and which rendition did he share with you?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
You're muted, Sebastian.
Still?
I muted everybody, so you have to unmute.
I think, can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear him. Yes.
Should I unmute you?
I think it's you, your speakers.
You? Can you hear me?
Can hear you, yes.
All right, let me just hear. Okay. How do you unmute? Give me a second. So now you're unmuted, Sebastian.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can't hear anything.
I think it's you.
Oh, I can't. Oh, that's me. Okay, go ahead. Because I turned it off so that the email wouldn't ding. Okay, I get it. Okay.
So yes, hello, Professor. Hello, everybody. So I've been in touch with Babaji Satyanarayan Das, and he very kindly responded. The two examples he gave me for the words Hari is basically a vocative form of Hari, so the name of Vishnu, the name of the Lord. So he gave me a verse from the Narada Purana to support that version, and he says, even if remembered by people of impure hearts, Hari takes away the sins of such a person. Even if one touches fire unintentionally, it certainly burns. A sadhaka has difficulty concentrating on the mantra, yet the name Hari will purify such a sadhaka. Therefore, the word Hari is included, and it comes 8 times in the Maha Mantra. So that's for Hari. For Rama, he gave me a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he says that Hari. No, wait, hang on. Sorry, the answer is a bit long here. I'm trying to sort it through. I think it's messed up here. Here you go. The great yogis take pleasure in meditating on the unlimited, eternal, blissful, and conscious self. Therefore, the supreme Brahman is called by the word Rama. So Hari cleans the heart, and then you can fix it on Rama, the abode of pleasure.
Okay.
That's what he gave me.
And Krishna?
Well, I didn't ask him about Krishna because I understood it as being the name of the Lord.
Yeah. And and it has and Krishna means to attract. So you could take it as the one who all attractive.
Okay.
So Ram is the Sanskrit root. Ram is to give pleasure. And Kri is to steal away. So that's, can steal away all the impurities. That's great. Or you could take it as stealing your heart. You could take it that way as well. So you're right. It's vocative. So masculine E nouns in Sanskrit, in the vocative become A. So some of you are interested in Sanskrit, and you probably encounter that in chapter 6 of the Sanskrit book that we use for our course. So we now reach the sort of grand finale of this Svadhyaya. We looked at the lives of great bhaktas. But of course, what is a great bhakta? A great bhakta is someone whose mind is always immersed on Bhagavan. And in the earlier chapters, a lot of them were, there's Vishnu seems prominent, that the Vishnu is the focus of the meditation. But the 10th book is considered to be like the jewel, the gem in the golden jewel of the Bhagavatam, the 12 books. And it's really the 10th book that's made this, the Bhagavata Purana, just preeminent amongst all Puranas. It has over 100 commentaries by now. And the next Purana has only 2. And most Puranas have no commentaries. So, we can quantify that statement, how. And it's the 10th book that has given it that fame. So in the Bhagavatam, even though the first 9 books prioritize Vishnu, in the beginning of the text, the Bhagavatam states that actually all these other eti chamsa kala pumsam Krishna's tu Bhagavan Svayam. This is the old famous verse establishing that Krishna is the supreme being, and all other forms are manifestations from Krishna. And this is the differences between the traditions. They all accept each other. And the question is, well, who is the ultimate form which supports the other forms and manifests the other forms? And the older Vaishnava tradition says Vishnu is the ultimate Godhead, the cause of all causes, the ultimate. That's the best word for it, because there's nothing beyond an ultimate by definition of the word. So they would say Vishnu, and then when Vishnu wants to incarnate, then he comes as in the various avatars, such as Krishna. That's the position of the older Vaishnava schools, especially in the south of India, the great Ramanuja schools and the Madhva schools. But the Bhagavatam subverts that and says, no, actually, even Vishnu, he may be the creator, but God must be beyond creation. Because creation is if you're the creator, then you're kind of trapped in a job. It's kind of like you have a job. So then you're not supremely, free, actually. Now you could say, well, God chooses to create, so he's free and he chooses to create, and that's fine. But the Krishna traditions prefer to think of the ultimate God as simply engaging in blissful love with his devotees, his beloved bhaktas, in the divine realm of Goloka, the realm made with forms and personalities. This world is a reflection of that, just like Plato's cave. Beyond the the Brahmajyoti, beyond the impersonal, beyond where the Jnana yogis attain an experience of infinity, infinite bliss, Satchidananda, beyond all of that, beyond the impersonal experience of Brahman, without form, without qualities, beyond that, higher than that, in the Vaishnava tradition. The Advaita traditions flip it the other way around. They say, well, the ultimate is impersonal, and personal is a secondary superimposition, actually. That's what Shankara would say. So in Vaishnavism, then, Krishna is the supreme being, and what he does is simply enjoys loving, blissful exchanges with his bhaktas. And when there's a need for creation, then he manifests Vishnu. Okay, Vishnu, go off and create. So the Krishna tradition would understand that God doesn't do anything but engage in love. He doesn't. Even if you say it's by his own will, he doesn't have a job to do. He doesn't have the dharma of creation. Otherwise, you could say God has a dharma like everybody else, and his dharma is to create and oversee and so forth. So the 10th book, the stories we're going to read now, are supposed to be like a kind of a window into, we've spoken a lot about how bhaktas reject conventional moksha. They're not interested in an experience of formless experience, trans-individual, eternal, infinite. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in svarupa. They're not interested in absorbed in their own nature. They want to have an eternal relationship with a distinct Bhagavan. And so there are divine realms. It's nothing to do with the celestial realms. Don't confound those, because the celestial realms are still within the realm of Prakriti. They may be celestial, but they're still made of the gunas. They're still made of subtle matter, and they're temporal. One attains it by good karma, and so when the good karma runs out, then one returns. Punar avartino Arjuna, Abrahma bhuvana loka, punar avartino Arjuna, Krishna says, from the highest celestial realm of Brahma, punar avartino, all of them are returning realms. You have to return. Mamupetya dakuntaya punar janmana vidyate, but if you come to my realm, says Krishna, you never take birth again. So the Krishna tradition and Vaishnavas as well would hold that Vishnu, Vishnu and Krishna, they both have their transcendent realms. Transcendent means beyond Prakriti, not made of Prakriti. So those who seek the Atman, they don't go there. They don't go there because they don't want to go there. They want a Svarupa Vastanam. So that's what they get. You get what you want. That's why we have to, pick wisely, my friends. This idea that all paths lead to the same place. Who said that? That's a silly idea. No one in the tradition said that. Traditions have very distinct claims about what moksha consists of. What is moksha? What is nirvana? What is the liberated state? The Buddhists have a different idea of what that consists of. Advaita Vedanta has its idea. Kashmir Shaivism has a different idea. So either you say one of them is right and the rest of them are wrong, or you say, well, they're really just one, but it filters down in human, cultures, and because people have come from different cultures and different mindsets, they articulate it differently. That's not, that idea is a very modern idea. Yatomat tatopat. So either you say one is right, the others are wrong, or you try to say, well, they all lead to the same goal. If you say that, you're actually you're disrespecting what the traditions say about themselves. They're not saying they're going to the same goal. It might be a very nice, convenient, politically correct thing to say. It might be a very modern thing to say, but it's not. Tradition has never said that. So, well, that's not quite true. You might find that actually in tradition. But when you study the traditions, they all are claiming to lead, the experience of Kashmiri Shaivism is not the same experience the Vaishnavas are talking about. It's not the same experience that Advaita Vedanta is talking about. It's not the same experience that the Buddhists are talking about. So either you say, well, they really are talking about the same thing. Well, then then you're not really respecting what they actually are saying. You're trying to straight jacket them into this sort of convenient one-size-fits-all box. So either you do that, Or my own preference is to say that actually, why do we think that the ultimate has to be one size fits all? Why can't the ultimate itself be variegated? Just like this world is variegated. There's a reflection of that world. So those who seek the Atman, they attain the Atman. Those who want to become Shiva and enjoy the spectacle of the creation from Shivoham, they can attain that. Those who want, who want to go play with Krishna in this divine realm, they attain that. Those who prefer the majesty of Vishnu, go to Vishnu's realm. Let them all be true, my friends. And if it is the case that they're all true, then you have to make a choice. Human life is about making a choice. Which path do you wish to follow? It's not the case that they take you to the same place, because you study them, see what they say about themselves. They're claiming that you'll end, if you follow the path, you'll have a certain experience at the end, the grand finale, and those experiences don't match onto each other. So here in the Krishna tradition, then, when Krishna descends, it's kind of like he has two reasons to descend. There's the official reason, like he says in the Gita, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam, to protect the pious and destroy all the demons. And of course, there's the great Mahabharata war, because the background of which is that all the demons had, the demoniac celestial forces were losing. So this cosmic war going on in the sort of subtle dimensions between celestial beings, demoniac ones and and more pious ones. And the bad guys were losing, so they all came down and took birth as kings of India. They were kind of hiding out on Earth, and so so the Earth was overburdened with all of this sort of demoniac, and they were powerful because they were celestials masquerading as humans. So Brahma goes to Vishnu, and Vishnu says, "Okay, I'll descend." That's the narrative, and that's why Krishna comes. The official reason. That's why there's the Mahabharata war. That's why Krishna forces it on, because he promised Brahma he would rid the earth of the demoniac forces. So that's the official reason. But the Bhagavatam accepts that, but says there's another reason that Krishna manifests in the first 40 chapters of the 10th book of the Bhagavatam, when he's giving us a glimpse at what. Well, let's say you become a bhakta, let's say you fix your mind on Krishna, you give up all desires, you become 100% surrendered to Bhagavan, and then you die. What then? We've said so many times, the bhaktas reject, they don't want Svarupa, they want to have a relationship with God. Well, where does that take place when they die? They become completely pure, so they don't have to be reborn. There's no more karma. So they go to the divine realm. And these stories are meant to give us a window into the kind of beautiful exchanges that Krishna participates in with his bhaktas. This is the eternal relationship based on love and service, because love is service. Yes, that's what love is. That's how it's defined in these traditions. That love is service, because if you love someone, you want to make them happy. So then, what is that other than service? So a bit, and I like to compare it to sort of like, the American embassy in Delhi. It's kind of a little tiny little kind of manifestation of America, or the American Cultural Center in Delhi. And you go in, and all of a sudden you go off the noisy, chaotic streets of Delhi, and all of a sudden you're in this cultural center with AC and everything's American. It's kind of like you're entering into a little tiny. You're given a glimpse of a much larger entity, the United States, which is 2,000 miles away. The American Cultural Center and Embassy. Once you're there, you're no longer under the jurisdictions of Indian law. It's where people try to take shelter in embassies. So it's kind of like a little mini transplanted expression of America. So that's what the 10th book is. And so just as in the American Cultural Center, there might be American music and American food and American restaurant and all of so you're getting a little slice of America. So that's what it is with this 10th book. We're getting a glimpse at Goloka. So that's how the Bhagavatam understands itself, and see what you think. And I will share with you some of the most beloved stories. So in the 10th book, okay, the Bhagavatam has 12 books. So since we don't have a lot of time, we will start with Krishna and his brother Balaram are they're not toddling yet. So I guess there must be about 1 or 1.5. I don't know when kids start getting on their feet, probably around 1.5. So maybe they're 1. So in order to understand these stories, we need to understand a couple of terms, and one is Yoga Maya. We've all heard of Maya, and we know that's a bad thing, right? Maya is avidya, usually used in a more cosmic sort of sense. So that's what Maya is, that which covers the consciousness and causes consciousness to misidentify with the body-mind. Patanjali would say something like, he would say, anitya, ashuchi, anatma, kyatir, sukha, shuchi, nitya, atma, something like that. Kyatir, avidya. Avidya is to take the self, which is blissful and pure, to be the not self, which is not blissful and not pure. So do we think of ourselves as body mind? That's avidya. So that's Maya. So that's a negative thing. So Maya is a negative thing, and yoga is a good thing. In fact, yoga is the exact opposite. Yoga is that which takes us to our Atman. So how can you put the two words together? It's like saying black, white, or dark, light. Isn't it an oxymoron to say yoga Maya? Well, actually, it is a Maya. It's not. It's like its mundane counterpart, Mahamaya, which is the Prakritic Maya, which is the one all yogis seek to shake off. That's Mahamaya. So like that Prakritic counterpart, Yoga Maya is also a power of illusion, but it's a Yoga Maya. It's a power of illusion that brings one closer to God. So it's kind of a Bhakti Yoga Maya. Now, how does it do that? Because it covers God's majesty. And once majesty is covered, there can be intimacy. There can't be intimacy when there's majesty, because majesty creates fear and distance. Well, it might create reverence and awesomeness and wonder. I mean, it doesn't, but there's definitely a sense of distance and formality. Lots of namahas, Om Namo Narayana, lots of nama. It's a very formal thing to say, namaha. So Krishna, in order to allow his bhaktas to have very intimate relations with him as mother, as son, as friend, in these intimate ways, he covers that, and he covers it by Yoga Maya. So the participants in the stories are not aware that Krishna is God. Occasionally they show some awareness, but most of the time they're not. Number one, so Yoga Maya is the power which, and bhaktas seek that. We seek to be under the influence of Yoga Maya, precisely so that we can have these very, very intimate relationships with Krishna without being overwhelmed by the majesty. So Yoga Maya covers majesty, essentially. And this allows Krishna to engage in the other word that we need to know before reading the stories, which is Līlā. And Līlā means, it's very hard to translate, but I think, pastimes is as close as you're going to get. It's God playfully engaging in loving, playful exchanges with his bhaktas, not because of dharma, no creation, nothing, none of that. No, it's just exchanging love. He's basically exhibiting what goes on eternally in his divine realm. The bhaktas that seek Krishna's divine realm, they engage in Līlā perpetually. And there are different kinds of bhavs, different kinds of ways, different bhav is love, different ways of loving God, just as we have. So man is made in the image of God is really taken very seriously in these traditions. It's not anthropomorphism, it's theopomorphism. We're made in the image of God because God has form and personality. Of course, infinite forms, infinite personalities, no doubt. So, okay, so with all of that, so bhavs are the different flavors of love. And those of you that did the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I believe it was last year, whenever it was, will remember that the different stages of bhav. Okay, so Leela is playful interactions where Krishna is trying to please his bhaktas and the bhaktas are trying to please Krishna. So the love is reciprocal. It's two-way. It's bi-directional. It's not until you get to the 100, until you get to that 100% pure, free of all other desires and simply completely absorbed in Bhagavan. Until then, it's formal and it sort of seems one way. It seems like we're doing all the pujas and the mantras. It seems that way. Of course, bhaktas believe that their beloved is always supporting them from behind the scenes. But once you get to the 100% point, Krishna's just as eager to serve his, got to keep this in mind when we read the stories. Krishna's just as eager to serve his devotees as they are to serve him. And so he does things that he knows gives them pleasure. So he takes on the form of a little mischievous child because the mothers delight in that. They just delight in it. Let's see if we can get a sense of that. Enough of me talking, and we'll get a sense of that. Okay, let me just get this out of the way. Close. And what do we do? A screen share screen, and here we are. So verse 21, you can download this from the website if you want to follow along. It's on the edwinbryant.org and the Svadhyaya, the last one. So we are now in book 8. Okay, so after a short time, verse 21, Balaram, Krishna's brother, and Keshava, another name. Krishna's got lots of names because Krishna has unlimited qualities. So different names reflect these different qualities. So just like we have, like some people call me professor, like I was saying in class the other day, some people call me Edwin, some people might call me Mr. Bryant. My daughter calls me a total loser. And so different people have different names based on your qualities, your perceived qualities. So Krishna, obviously being infinite, has infinite names. There's a beautiful Sahasranama that is recited, especially in South India, the 1,000 names of Vishnu. But of course, even the 1,000, it's not that there's 1,000. There are unlimited, but 1,000 of them get chanted daily in the big South Indian Vaishnava temples, the 1,000 names of Vishnu. So Keshava, they roamed about Vraj, which is Vrindavan, by the way. So Vraj is Vrindavan. It's where I go to when I go to India, hopefully be going in March or April next year. So they roamed around Vraj, crawling around on their hands and knees. So they're not walking yet, they're not toddlers. The two of them crawled in the dust of Vraj like snakes. So this is God on high, this is Narayana, taking this form of a little child, manifesting this form, and just to delight his devotees, to delight the devotees that wish to interact with him as in a motherly form of love. So he takes the form of a tiny child. So they're crawling around like snakes, dragging their legs, which from their anklets gave off sweet sounds and tinkling noises. So they delighted in the sound, and so they followed people. You know how children sometimes wander off from their parents and they don't really realize they're wandering off. And they just follow somebody, and all of a sudden they panic, right? They turn around, the mother's not there, and they panic and they scuttle back to their mother. So Krishna's doing that, the Lord of the universe. This is what makes Krishna Bhakti, my friends. This, right? Each has, Ram Bhakti has its flavors. Its flavor, Ram is very, very dharmic. I mean, quintessentially dharma. So you read of the Ramayana and it's all dharma. And it makes your hair stand on end, the dharma of Ram. Narayana's majesty. But Krishna is this. The Krishna of devotion is not the Krishna of the Gita or the Krishna of the Mahabharata. It's baby Krishna, it's young Krishna, it's Vrindavan Krishna. Before he goes out, then he goes out and, and then he kills all the demons and orchestrates the war and so forth. Speaks the Gita. But that's not the Krishna of devotion. I think there's only one temple in India. That's the Bhagavad Gita temple. It has a Krishna's Gita. There's a couple here or there, but there's tens of thousands, must be hundreds of thousands, mostly Radha Krishna temples, especially in the north. In the south, it's more, as I said before, Narayana. So they delighted in the sound, and so they followed people, but then scurried back to their mothers as if frightened and confused. Right? Where's my mom? Hang on a minute. Who's this person I'm following? Is a stranger. They're two mothers whose breasts were seeping milk from affection. So this is going to be repeated several times, and the idea is not. The idea is to give us these kinds of physiological statements are supposed to give us a glimpse at the intense love that the mothers expressed for Krishna. And because of that love and their constant meditation, because they're pure devotees, they're pure, they think of nothing but God. That's what I mean by pure, not mixed with anything else at all. Well, even if they cook, whatever they're doing it for Krishna, and therefore they're in the Leela. And this can be this will be the final birth for bhaktas who have been doing bhakti for many, many lives. Before they join Krishna in his divine realm, they don't have to, but they might take birth somewhere where Krishna is incarnating as baby Krishna. So their breasts were seeping milk because they were so intensely thinking of their children, they not just naturally lactated because they were still nursing. So their breast was seeking milk from affection. That's the point, from their love, intensity of a love. And that the other comments, the comment about breast seeping milk is supposed to is underscores that and nothing else. They picked their two boys up in their arms. The boys looked adorable. It's Bhagavan, it's Krishna, the most beautiful being in the universe. But now with the mud smeared on their bodies. How about that? Got on high with mud smeared all over their bodies. After offering their breasts and gazing at their faces and their tiny teeth as they suckled, the mothers fell into a blissful state. This is the bliss that the bhaktas want. They don't want the bliss of the Satchidananda Atman. Doesn't matter how many times I repeat that. I have to keep repeating that because this tradition has not been very well established in the West. It's mostly been the Advaita Vedanta, Patanjali, and Sankhya kind of traditions where the goal is the Atman. So therefore, I'm going to keep repeating, and the text itself keeps repeating. So I'm in line with the text by repeating this. This is the bliss that the bhaktas want. This is that there is a distinct Godhead. Whether we are not God, how can we be God? We're an illusion. What kind of a God could we possibly be? So we are not God. There is a God, and one can have an eternal relationship with God, just like the Christians have said for 2,000 years, just like the Muslims have said, just like the Jewish traditions have said. So in that way, this is monotheistic and has those other Western Abrahamic forms that it corresponds to. That the God is a distinct being. How can we possibly be God? We're trapped in Maya. We can't create universes, can't create anything. So when the women found the boys' childhood Leela, there's the term, Leela, worth watching, which of course is always, the ladies of Raj would leave their households and enjoy themselves. See, they're just enjoying the little kids crawling about and getting up to little things toddlers get up to, looking and laughing as the two were dragged hither and thither by the calves whose tails they had grasped. So the boys, you know how crawlers are, they grab hold of things and they try to pull themselves up. Well, they're in the forest. There's no fixed buildings here. There's no description of any fixed buildings. There are homes, but there's no indication that there's fixed buildings. All those paintings you see of Krishna with elaborate palaces and all of that's 16th century Mughal architecture. That's just the artist is doing that. If you read the text, they are closer to gypsies. They have carts. It does say they have homes, but it never says anything about homes like with doors and windows. So they're more like, do you know the gypsies came from India, don't you? Gypsy is actually an Indo-Aryan language. So if you look at the language tree, you have, Dravidian languages and then you have Indo-Aryan languages, the northern languages, and then, and then you have, whatever Celtic languages and Germanic languages and so forth, and Italic, which is the sort of linguistic term for the Latin languages like French and Spanish. So they have the Indo-Aryan languages, and that would be Gujarati and Bengali and the northern languages, and Bihari and so forth, and Gypsy. Now, but because the Gypsies have been in India for many, many centuries, their vocabulary is completely and utterly, obviously, European. You'd have to be a linguist to actually penetrate all, because they borrowed these words over the centuries. Obviously, they're in Europe. But only you have to be a linguist to penetrate all that, and underneath that, there's still the structure of the old Indo-Aryan language structure still exists. So therefore, it's actually classified as an Indo-Aryan language. So the Krishna's community are cowherders. They're kind of like that. They have carts. So what exactly their homes are, because it does say they go into their homes. It does say milk is hanging on ropes. We don't get a sense of that from the text. You look through it. Sebastian, look through the first 35 chapters when you have any spare time, and see if you can find any reference to a home or a fixed building. And if you find something, we'll look at the Sanskrit, and it might be translated as home or whatever, but we look at the Sanskrit and you'll see it actually no fixed buildings. Which also shows that Krishna is born in a kind of a lowly social community. Bit like Jesus of Nazareth, carpenter, right? So again, that points to to bhakti, which transcends caste, it transcends gender, and it transcends social status. Kind of a lowly community. Okay, so there they are. I mean, lowly meaning from the social hierarchy of ancient India, and when they go to Mathura, they're kind of like, not scorned exactly, but when Krishna goes, the king ridicules him. Oh, look at you cowherd boys, strutting about. So that's what I mean. If you wanted to be mean, you would draw attention to their caste. So they grabbed hold of the calf's tails, and all the ladies loved watching this. And then looking and laughing as the two were dragged hither and thither by the calves whose tails they had grasped. So they would grab of course, the calves are also great bhaktas. Don't think you can be a calf, be born as a calf when Krishna's taking birth and not be a great bhakta. So they adore Krishna too, but they're still calves. So when Krishna grabs the tail, they bolt. And so Krishna and Balaram would hang, they're kind of surfing through the mud of Vrindavan. The cows would bolt, the kids, little kids, would have holding onto the tails, and they're getting dragged hither and thither. So this is all just delightful. The ladies are loving it, and all the ladies are kind of have the maternal love, even though Krishna's mother is his mother, but they all have the same bhav. The elderly gopis, they have the same love, the love of a mother to a child. So this is what Krishna bhaktas want. They want this for all eternity. The two boys were very active, and their play sometimes took them out of bounds. When their mothers could not safeguard their sons, right? Look at, they're in the forest, from horned or fanged animals, fire, swords, water, winged creatures and thorns. They're in the forest. Nor even perform their household duties, they became very anxious. And this is one of the different types of love have different features that sort of identify them, or are characteristic of that bhav. Bhav means a particular type of love, a flavor of love. It's called a bhav. So the flavor of maternal bhav is protection. You actually believe, because of Yogamaya, you believe that Krishna is dependent on you. You need to feed him. You need to sort of chant mantras to protect him, and all of that. But another feature of the maternal bhav is anxiety that something's going to happen. I mean, those of you that have children, you remember, right? When your children are when your children are very young, it's terrifying. It's terrifying because they're so tiny and vulnerable, and really, who has a clue how to parent? I certainly never felt I had a clue. So there's this fear factor as well, coming out of love, and anxiety for the well-being of the child. So this is so all of that. It's not that we're projecting human emotions onto God. It's the other way around, my friends. We have emotions because God has emotion. We have form because God has form. Plato had it right with his cave. He was onto something there. The shadows on the cave. Look it up in Wiki, if you're not familiar with that. So they became very anxious. This is love. This is a feature of love, that you're anxious for the well-being of the beloved. Love is anxiety laden, not for yourself, not anxious that your beloved is going to dump you. No, that's self-centeredness. No, but you're anxious that nothing will happen to your beloved. So the mothers, especially mothers, feel that way. After a short time, O kingly sage, remember the whole Bhagavatam being spoken to Parikshit sitting on the banks of the river, fasting. Remember the story, first story, cursed to die in 7 days. So after a short time, Balaram and Krishna were walking easily in Gokula. There it is, sometimes called Goloka or Gokula. Gokula is kind of in this realm, and Goloka is the eternal divine spiritual realm in Brahman, made of pure consciousness, beyond time, beyond matter, beyond all of that. No karma, none of the laws of matter it exists there. Only love. That's the only law. And they no longer had bruised knees. Isn't that cute? So they, up to then they were, toddlers. They walk and then they collapse. They plunk down on their bums, or they collapse on their knees, and they no longer have bruised knees. This is God on high, walking around, crawling around with bruised knees, my friends. This is Krishna Bhakti. You're not going to find that in the Ram Līlā and Ramayana. You're not going to find that with Vishnu. You're not going to find this with Devi. Absolutely not. Not going to find it with Shiva. You'll find other delightful flavors, but you won't find this. Each form of Bhagavan has its own unique and wonderful flavor. And you become a bhakta depending on the flavor that attracts you, like anything else, like food. You like a particular type of food, you like a, whatever, Italian flavor or Chinese flavor or Indian flavor, and then that's it. That's your thing. So this is the flavor of bhakti that constitutes the Krishna traditions. And there's multiple Krishna traditions. Thereafter, Bhagavan Krishna, along with Balaram, played with the boys of Raj of the same age, arousing rapture in the women of Raj. That's why he's doing it. He's giving pleasure to his devotees. God is giving pleasure to his devotees. They're trying to give him pleasure, but he is going to give them pleasure. So he gets up to his little antics and his mischief to make them happy, because he knows that they take delight in it. That's all. That's what you do to your lover. You do things that will delight your beloved. So now observing the delightful childish activity of Krishna, the gopis. Now these are the older gopis, not the gopis later on that are the same age as Krishna. That's another bhav that we're not going to, is very easily misunderstood, and we probably won't do that today. The gopis, the elder one, the motherly gopis, right? Gopi just means a female cow herder. So go is a cow, by the way, cognate, cow, go, cow. That's an old Indo-European word. And pa is to protect. And so go pa is the male and go pi is the female. So this doesn't tell us the age. So they're old gopis and young gopis. The old gopis have a maternal love for Krishna and the young ones have a romantic love for Krishna. So their flavors are different. These are the old gopis. The bhavs are different. So the gopis gathered and they spoke tongue in cheek. They're not at all upset. They're going to pretend. So it's tongue in cheek. They just want to watch Krishna's little face when they snitch on him. Sometimes you tease a beloved. That's what you do when you're in love. You shake. You might you tease a little bit, and it's just play. It's just part of love. So now they're kind of teasingly, they want to see how he reacts when they tell his mother that mischief he's been up to. So they spoke tongue in cheek. That's okay. Keep that in mind. As follows, in the presence of his mother who was listening. So now they're snitching. Sometimes he releases the calves at the wrong time and laughs when cries of protest are raised. This is God being absolutely mischievous, very naughty. Moreover, he eats the tasty milk and whey that he steals by means of his thieving devices. So he sneaks into the house of the elderly gopis, breaks their pots, and steals their butter. Butter back then would be like ice cream for a kid today. He divides the curds and whey, and he feeds the monkeys. Remember, they're milk herders. This is their livelihood, selling milk products. If he doesn't eat, he breaks the pot. Now he's a little vandal. He's a thief. He's a vandal. When there is nothing available and he leaves angry with the household, he blames the children. And now he's a liar too. So then he blames the kids and says, why isn't there anything to eat in your rotten house? When he cannot reach, he devises a system to get things by arranging benches and rice husking mortars. So he's only tiny. So he piles up a bench and he puts the mortar on top because the butter is hanging. Who knows where it's hanging from? It doesn't say. Could be a tree. So that he can get it to keep the rats out. You hang it up on ropes and that keeps the mice out. And well, so he has to get to it. So he creates all this sort of arrangement. Knowing what has been placed inside the pots, right? Knowing there's butter in it, hanging on rope slings, the cunning boy makes a hole in them at that time of day when the gopis are absorbed in household chores. So he knows the gopis are busy, and that's the time he's scooped it out. He's done his reconnaissance. He knows that the gopis are busy. That's when he sneaks in. He's done his homework there. Now, of course, every so often we get a sense of that this is not a normal child. It's Brahman, because look, his own body, which bears clusters of precious jewels, right? His mother dresses him with jewels. I mean, it was very opulent. Obviously, when Krishna descends, and it says in the first chapter of the 10th book that the earth opened up her, the earth is welcoming God. And so she offers up, she's doing bhakti. And if you're the earth, what is your bhakti? Well, you offer your best. What is bhakti? You offer your best to Bhagavan. That's what bhakti is. And so the earth is offering up her jewels and all from her, normally you have to sort of mine them. But when Krishna descends, the earth just pushes out from her bowels all these precious minerals to welcome Bhagavan. That's a gift, the best that she has. And so there's jewels all over the place. So his mother would then dresses him in jewels. So his own body, which bears clusters of precious jewels, functions as a light in the dark house. The house is dark, but his body is so effulgent because it's not made of matter, not even sattva. It's Brahman. So it's effulgent. So he doesn't need a light in the house. So every so often we're the author throws these little snippets in, which which inform us of who he actually really is, because we can get lulled into the Līlā, but every so often we're not allowed to enter the Līlā because we're not 100% pure. So the gopis, they can be completely covered by Yogamaya, and we can get lulled into the stories, but every so often we're reminded, don't forget who this is. This is that Narayana. So his body is effulgent. What else now? When he is engaged in such audacity, he passes urine and other things in our house. So he goes in and pees on the floor just out of pure mischief, and poops. What are other things? Well, it must be poop. What else is it? He passes urine and other things. So the sensitivity, the author then didn't want to sort of, being a Brahmin, Vyas, the tradition says, he's not, he wants to be a little bit dignified, so he doesn't mind mentioning urine, but then he, rather than say feces, he just says other things in our houses. Although his deeds are carried out by theft, he outwardly appears virtuous, or innocent little face. So he's deceitful as well. So all of he's a liar, he's a thief, he blames the kids, he pees on the floor, he's a vandal, he breaks pots so that he appears virtuous. This is all the Supreme Bhagavan, simply engaging in love. He's doing this to delight the mothers. When you're a 1-year-old, there's no such thing as, everything a 1-year-old does is delightful. In this way, these affairs were related by the women as they gazed at Krishna's beautiful face with its fear-stricken eyes. This is what the doctors want to do for all eternity, just gaze at Krishna. With a smile on her face, right? In most beautiful being, you never want to take your eyes off. That level of beauty, you never want to take your eyes off. With a smile on her face, Yashoda did not want to scold Krishna. So that's one Līlā. So that's a Līlā. So a Līlā is also kind of like an episode, or like a little, doesn't have to be a whole chapter in a book, but it's a distinct section. And then we have once, and then we know we're entering in another Līlā now. A Līlā is, God at play, but a Līlā, so Līlā can just, but it can also mean an episode featuring a particular instance of God being playful and loving. So that would be the Makanchor Līlā, the stealing of the butter Līlā. And now we're going to get another Līlā, and I'll tell you the name. I don't want to tell you the name now. I don't want to spoil the story. So once then, it introduces the next Līlā. And of course the chapters also do, but in this case we have 2 Leelas in the chapter. Once when Balaram, well, actually more than that, once when Balaram and the other cowherd boys, elder brother, only slightly elder, but technically elder, born from the co-wife of the father, but they were born at the same time, more or less, but Balaram slightly before, so he's the elder brother, but the same age, that, you know, maybe a few days or a difference or something like that. Once when Balaram and the other cowherd boys were playing, they complained that now they're going to snitch on Krishna. They complained to Mother Yashoda, Krishna has eaten mud. Yashoda was concerned for his welfare and scolded Krishna, whose eyes seemed to be full of fear. So Krishna, you know, is playing his Leela like a mortal. He's having fun, but at the same time, he's also under Yogamaya. Because otherwise it's no fun if he knows he's really God. Then what kind of fun is that? I mean, sometimes he's under Yogamaya, sometimes he's not. Depends on this. If his devotees are threatened by anything, then he comes out of Yogamaya and protects them. So grasping him in her hand, she said to him, why have you secretly eaten mud, you naughty boy? These young friends of yours are saying so, and so's your elder brother. So Krishna says, Mother, I didn't eat any mud. They're all spreading false accusations. If you think they're speaking the truth, then you look into my mouth yourself. So Yashoda, his mother, says, if that is the case, then open wide, she said. Lord Hari, now every so often we're reminded of who he is. Lord Hari, whose supremacy cannot be constrained. Nobody can tell him to do anything. But who is God assuming the form of a human boy for play, for Leela, for exchanging love. He's doing all this. He opened wide his mouth. It's probably one of the most famous Krishna stories. I know some of you are familiar with it, but you never get tired of reading these stories. You read them again and again and again and again and again. Let me just get a cloak or something, because it's a... And I didn't put the fire on. It's a bit chilly. Good old Vrindavan woolen chadar. Loy Bazaar. 200 rupees. Well, that was the old days, probably 2,000 now. So if that is the case, then open wide, she said. So Lord Hari Krishna, whose supremacy cannot be constrained, but who is God, assuming the form of a human boy for play, open wide. Now she's looking in his mouth to see if it's any mud there. Now, for a minute, he lifts the spell of Yogamaya. And all of a sudden, now he's going to show her who he really is. So he just, and really it's also to inform us about what Yogamaya actually, the role she performs, because without Yogamaya, there can be no love, or at least there can be no intimate love. Yashoda saw in his mouth the universe of moving and non-moving things. You can, if you wanted to talk about reality, you can say Purusha Prakriti, or you can say moving and non-moving, because moving things are alive and non-moving things are not. So that's the same as Purusha Prakriti. There's different ways of framing it. She saw the universe of moving and non-moving things. She saw space, the directions, the sphere of the earth with its oceans, islands, and mountains. And she saw raw energy, air, fire, the moon and the stars. She saw the circle of the constellations, water, light, the wind, the sky, the evolved senses, the mind, but the raw, the Sankhya, the cosmic mind, the cosmic tattvas, the elements, and the 3 guna qualities, right? The basic underpinning ingredients of matter are the 3 gunas. She saw this universe with all its variety, differentiated into bodies, right? Because all the variety, the different Atmans are in different bodies, which are the repository of souls. That's what all forms are. The universe is created only to accommodate the karma of the living entities. Everything out there in the universe is what it is, simply to accommodate the karma of the living entity. There's no other reason. There's no other cause for it. So we say creation is beautiful. Well, actually, the spiritual realm is beautiful. But whatever is, maybe it's beautiful, maybe it's not. But whatever, everything that exists in Prakriti is there for in order to allow living beings to burn up their karma from past cycles, past creative cycles. There's no just random stone out there. Even the stones out there have some purpose. Maybe an ant lives under it, who knows? But everything is what it is, simply governed by karma. There's no random, there's nothing there which doesn't have a purpose. The word is teleological, that everything has sort of an ultimate purpose. Everything in creation, according to the Indian systems in general, Buddhism too, as far as I know, is teleological, has a purpose. So she saw the time factor, which is really the movement of the gunas. She saw nature, prakriti, and karma. She saw the law of karma. Seeing Vraj as well as herself in the gaping mouth in the body of her son. So in the mouth is the universe, and in the universe is India, and in India she sees Vraj, and then she sees it all in her mouth, like one of those surreal paintings with a picture inside of a picture, inside of a picture, inside of a picture. She sees all this, as well as herself in the gaping mouth in the body of her. She was struck with bewilderment. Now notice what happens to her love. Her love gets destroyed. It's replaced by fear and anxiety and distance. And she says, is this a dream? Is it a supernatural illusion? Or is it just a confusion of my own intelligence? Am I just going mad? Or is it in fact some inherent divine power of this child of mine? Who is he? Is it something, he's got some kind of mystic power or something? And look, now she starts to do namaha to him. She's no longer, she doesn't mother him now. She's no longer able to sort of see him as her beloved child. She now sees him as some kind of an awesome, she doesn't know what to think, but she starts doing namaha, namaha, namaha. A mother doesn't do namaha to a child. You do namaha to Bhagavan, or to sort of some, to formal. Namaste is actually namaha te. So in a sort of a formal thing, you say, but you don't do that to a mother doesn't say that to a child. So therefore I offer namaha to his feet, which are the support of this world. So now she's realizing he's Bhagavan, that his feet is just a sort of a metaphor for that God sustains the whole world. From them and through their agency, this world manifests. Now she's realizing he's the supreme being. That, their true nature cannot be known by the senses nor by reason, meaning Krishna, the feet, meaning, Krishna as a personal being, cannot be known by the senses. You can't see God with your senses. And you could never figure out, but through reason, you cannot figure out the nature of God. There's a discussion at the very beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, which we will do sometime next year. In the very beginning, Shankara and Ramanuja, they both agree on this, but in very different ways, that through reason you can understand that there is a God. You can understand that to suppose that just, subatomic particles and gravitational forces, as we would frame it today, just randomly interacted and combined and came together and formed molecule, formed subatomic entities, and then atoms, and then whatever, and then in the course of whatever it is, 14 billion years or 8 billion years, 14 billion years almost, then then life emerges. And then to say that all of that happened just by randomly with no sort of guiding intelligence is such a massive leap of faith. It's such a completely and utterly statistically you can't quite say it's impossible, because 14 billion years, fine, but it seems it demands such a massive leap of faith that the Vedantins say, well, that just defies reason. It's much simpler to suppose that there's intelligence that brings it together. So they say, so that's an inference. That's a philosophical inference. That's not a belief. It's, in other words, there's two scenarios. One is that intelligence brings everything together, and another is that it's all random, but just by chance, life is a mysterious point of infinite density that then mysteriously explodes, if we want to use the metaphor of the Big Bang, and then from that infinitely dense moment, then the first subatomic particles emerge and the forces are there somehow or other. Why it explodes right at that moment and why not before? Of course, they would say, well, they can't ask that question because there is no before, because time begins at the big. So anyway, just to sort of suppose that all just happened, and then having happened, things just combine, and over the course of time, the world we see out of our windows, including life and our own consciousness, our own awareness of our own being, all of that happened purely by chance. The Vedantins would take that to be an utterly, just philosophically, implausible, proposal. And the Nyaya school, by the way, the Nyaya, there's a school of the logicians, and they would use logic and argument and reason in order to argue that there must be a creator. So Vedanta then, not to wander off too much, would say by reason we can know that there must be an intelligence, but we know nothing about it because it can't be perceived by the senses. It's beyond our ability to conceptualize, right? So the only way that's being, that Bhagavan, that Ishvara, they use the term Ishvara when they're talking as philosophers, they use the term Ishvara. Ishvara is the term used amongst philosophers and Bhagavan amongst bhaktas, because Bhagavan already assumes there's an Ishvara. So when Ishvara takes form, enters the world with form and qualities, then bhagas, and then he manifests forms and qualities like Krishna and Vishnu and Shiva. So that bhagas are qualities. So you're not going to believe in Bhagavan if you don't believe in an Ishvara. Ishvara just means the supreme, the intelligence behind the being. It's a being, a distinct being, distinct from the souls, at least certainly in the Nyaya and in the school of Nyaya and Sankhya, and well, no, Sankhya is a little bit different, and Vedanta anyway. Let's just stick with those two. So that being, when the being manifests, then that manifests means he manifests in a way that's perceivable. So therefore, there must be perceivable qualities such as form and beauty and characteristics. So that becomes bhaga. Bhaga means the qualities. So then he becomes the possessor of qualities. Bhagavan. Okay, so the only way to know that Ishvara, but when you're talking with philosophers, you first of all you have to demonstrate that there is an Ishvara before you start talking about qualities of Ishvara. You have to establish that there is an Ishvara in the first place. So therefore, the term Ishvara is the term that's used in philosophical discourse between the theists and the non-theists, which in Sanskrit is the Ishvaravadins, those that believe in Ishvara, and Nirishvaravadins. That would be the Buddhists, the Jains, and in the Vedic traditions, the Mimamsas. They rejected but they wouldn't accept a Big Bang. They would just say there's an eternal creation. It always has been, right? So they don't have the problem of explaining, well, how was there an infinitely dense moment and what caused it to explode right then? What was it? Where is the trigger? That is it internal to that infinitely dense moment? If the trigger that caused the explosion is internal, well, why wasn't that trigger triggering all the time then? Why did it trigger at that 14 billion years ago? So you run into all kinds of problems, which the ancient Greeks and the Indians didn't have because they didn't expect. They didn't. At least for the Mimamsas, creation is eternal. Anyway, I'm meandering here. So the point I want to make is, so in the Vedanta, the discussion takes place. Yes, okay, you might be able to know there is a God by reason, that there must be an intelligence, but you know nothing about the nature of that God. So the only way you can know then, because the mind is limited, the mind can only know prakritic things. The senses can only perceive prakritic things. And then from those prakritic things, then you make inferences and you make, you infer other things and you conceptualize and you theorize, but it's all based on the senses, right? Dark matter, you perceive something, right? The universe is expanding, whatever it is, and you make an inference, well, there must be something causing that. Well, let's call it black matter. So science is based on sense perception and inferences which come from sense perception, but God can't be perceived. So therefore you can't, the senses, right from the Upanishads, senses can't reach it. Beautiful verses in the Upanishads. Way back, the senses can't reach it. Mind cannot grasp it, because mind can only grasp, can only piggyback on what the senses perceive. So then the only way, how can it be known then? It has to reveal itself. And that's what the Bhagavatam is claiming to be, the revelation of that intelligent being in the form of Krishna. And of course, the Shaivas and the Vaishnavas would make the same claim. It's all the same Ishvara. Okay, so all of that is here. Their true nature cannot be known by the senses nor by reason. All right, you cannot know God. God can only reveal himself, and of course the goddess is in it, so herself. They are very difficult to perceive by thought, words, deeds, or intellect, and impossible actually. So just being rhetorical by saying very difficult. You can't know it. You can't understand Krishna. It's nothing logical about Krishna. Crawling around in the dust of Raj. There's nothing philosophically logical about that. It's pure revelation. It might be logical that there is an intelligent creator. That's logical, but that is little cow baby Gopala. That's nothing. That's way beyond philosophy's grasp. So they cannot be. They cannot. They're very difficult to perceive by thought or words. Obviously, words are simply vocalizations of thought, and deeds are then activations of thought or intellect. He is my refuge. Now she's pranidanaing, Ishvara pranidana. What happened to her maternal bhav? What happened to her? She's concerned that my little Gopal has eaten mud. I'm, worried maybe he'll get sick. He's all gone, smashed, destroyed. How is it destroyed? Because she realizes who he is. Now you understand how Yogamaya works. Yogamaya covers majesty so that there can be love, rather than awe and wonder, no doubt, wondrous and overwhelming majesty. But that's not love. At least it's not the love that is of interest to the Krishna bhaktas. So now she starts talking like a Vedanta philosopher. He is my refuge through his illusory power. Now, this is not Yoga Maya. This is regular Maya, the bad Maya, the Maya we don't want, the avidya. Through his avidya arise ignorant notions. What are the ignorant notions? I am me. I'm this body. I'm this gender. I'm a woman. I'm a cowherd lady. And he over there is my husband, and that one, that other body over there is my husband. This is all illusion. The Atman has got nothing to do with that. When you die and then you go somewhere else. Remember the Chitraketu story. This is what Maya is. We think I am me, and he over there is my husband, and this is my son, right? These are the ignorant notions, she says. But because of, Krishna says in the Gita, Devi Yashaguna Mayi Mama Maya. This is my Maya. So now she's saying through his illusory power, through his Maya, she's recognizing this is Ishvara. And it's because of Ishvara's Maya that this avidya is Ishvara's Maya. That's why Bhakti will say, you can never get out of Maya by yourself. Jnana wouldn't say that. Jnana would say you can, through Jnana, you can break through it. Patanjali would say, Nirodha, you can go beyond the mind, and with its avidya. Bhakti would say you can't. You might temporarily, but you can't stay in those states. But the Bhagavatam would say you fall back. Sooner or later, that mind will reactivate and pull consciousness back into the world of matter. And Krishna says, Devi hi yashaguna mayi mama maya. It's my Maya. Duratya ya mameva ye prapadyante maya meta tarantite. You surrender to me, then you can cross over. It's becoming so crystal clear to me, my friends. Been doing this for 45 years. And even though, reading this philosophy again and again and again, you still cling to your ego, and you still think, well, I'm going to do my bhakti, and I'm going to do my puja, I'm going to do my mantra, all the things you're supposed to do. But when it's done with ego, somehow you think, that your ego is going through doing these things through your ego. You're going to break through Maya. And after 45 years, no, then you realize, you know what? They said it all along. You have to surrender. You don't think your ego is not going to help. As long as you cling onto the ego, you might be doing all the right things, or chanting all the right mantras, doing it all just like the text say. But if you're doing it from a place of ego, you're purifying or making some progress, but you're not going to get that love that you seek. You have to completely let go and completely surrender. Remember the cat with the kitten? The kitten is in the mouth of the mother, completely just dangling there, not doing a thing. The great Vaishnava traditions of South India, the great Sri Vaishnava tradition divides in two. And one is the monkey and the other is the cat. It's the same tradition. This is Guruji Iyengar's tradition, Krishnamacharya's tradition. And the cat and there's a slight difference between them. I forget the name, Venkata, this something or other. The monkey also clings to the mother. You see the monkey underneath, you've been to India, right? It's clinging to the stomach of the mother, but the monkey has to cling. The mother's not, occasionally she'll pick it up and hold it, but mostly it's the monkey, and it's quite precarious. You think, oh, poor little monkey's going to fall off, because they never do, but it looks like they're going to fall off at any minute. That's the monkey school. And that school says, yes, God will carry you and everything, but you have to, you have to do something from your side. And then the kitten school says, no, all you do is completely surrender. And it's like the kitten doesn't do anything. The kitten's not hanging on to the mother. He's just dangling out the mouth of the mother. The mother picks up the kitten in the scruff of the neck, and the kitten is just happily dangling there. And that's the other school of Sri Vaishnava, the ones with the white and the red. So I'm much more inclined towards the kitten school these days. So so I'm thinking all of this, and I'm thinking of that, because she's her husband is the king, the sort of the leader, the leader of this little group of cow herders. So he's kind of like a small little forest king, if you will, and she's his wife. So she's kind of like this kind of rustic queen. And because of this Maya, I think I'm the virtuous wife. I'm thinking I'm the virtuous wife, and I'm the protectress of all the wealth of the ruler of Vraj, right? What is their wealth actually? Milk products. They're gopas and gopis. And I'm thinking all the gopas and gopis, along with their wealth, derived from the cattle of mine as the queen. So now she's getting all formal, all Vedantic, all talking about Maya, all Namaha, and all of a sudden, and Krishna doesn't want that. So then the omnipotent Supreme Lord cast his Yoga Maya. Now this story helps us understand what Yoga Maya's role is in the Leela. He cast his Yoga Maya, divine power of illusion, in the form of maternal affection over the gopi who had come to understand the truth. So what form does Yoga Maya take for her? It takes the form of maternal affection. That means she thinks he's her son. That means she's not aware that he's God. So that's the Maya. Just like the regular Maya, we're not aware that we're Atman, we think we're something else. We think we're body, mind. That's regular Maya. But Yoga Maya is you think God is someone else. You think he's your beloved little child. So now hopefully you'll get a sense of this Yoga Maya. So immediately the gopi's memory was erased. She forgot all of that. Krishna doesn't want to carry that around, because then that's going to spoil his Leela. And that what happens when she forgets everything instantly? She sat her son on her lap and returned to her previous state of mind with her heart full of intense love. She's now able to love him again. It was destroyed by a vision of his majesty. This story just nails it right on the head. If you understand this story, you understand Yoga Maya, you understand Leela, and you understand the theology, essentially, of Krishna Bhakti. And now this is a message for us. She considered Hari, whose glories are sung by the three Vedas, three Veda. Sometimes there's four Vedas, sometimes you hear the Chatur Veda, sometimes three, because three of them are very different from the fourth. Just like the three Gospels are very different from John, the Christian tradition. Matthew, Mark, they call these synoptic Gospels, very different from John. Not quite like that, but anyway, the Atharva Veda is very different. Not just of some different detail, it's very different. It's got, they say the origin of Ayurveda, it's got black magic, spells, it is clearly, the other three are, hymns and that are chanted in the sacrifice, the three Veda. So that's the Rig, the Samra, and the Yajur. But the Atharva is, scholars, I think, have some grounds to say it was probably added later, or somehow it has a very different point of origin. So here, and the tradition seems to recognize the difference, because here, his glories are sung by the three Vedas. The Upanishads, right? Because where's Krishna and Upanishad? Well, the Isha Upanishad, the Ishvara, the Shvetashvatara is an Ishvara Upanishad. So the later Upanishads have a very, the theism is more visible in the later Upanishads. What's caused by the scholarly ways of thinking about the Upanishads that they're written over centuries. Of course, the tradition would say they're eternal revelation. So we should, there's a difference between traditional way of thinking of the Upanishads, eternal divine revelation, that they reintroduced every new creative cycle. And obviously academics are not going to accept that, so they date them according to the language. And and there's, so the older Upanishads are older, archaic, Sanskrit, more Vedic forms, right? So just as we have in English, you have a difference between, say, let's say, Beowulf, the oldest English Anglo-Saxon writing, at least in England, is Beowulf. It's basically German. You're better off knowing German if you want to read Beowulf. It's Saxon. And then you have, Chaucer a little bit later, and then, language is still, we can understand Chaucer. You wouldn't be able to understand Beowulf. You'd pick out a few words here and there. I mean, it would be hard. I mean, you could, probably learn enough Saxon. If you read it in Saxon, you'd probably get the hang of it by the end, if you're having linguistic inclination, but it's very, it's German. Then Chaucer's different, and then Shakespeare's different from Chaucer. So in this way, you can see how English has changed, right? And then you have Victorian English is different from Chaucer, and then more these and thous. And then you have, modern English, and then you have, so in the same way, as that's clearly, that you clearly you compare those forms of English, it'd be very hard to say they were all written at the same time, So, scholars compare, Rig Vedic Sanskrit, already the oldest, and then the later Vedic, and then the early Upanishads and later Upanishads, and in this way, and then you get to classical Sanskrit. Once you get to classical Sanskrit, you get to Panini, then it gets fossilized, because Panini writes his amazing, brilliant 4.5, whatever, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 sutras of Sanskrit grammar. And now, just like the Yoga Sutras, once it's written, then that's it. That becomes like the go-to book for the bare bones yoga and yoga psychology. And then it lasts, and here we are 2,000 years later reading the Yoga Sutras. So at a certain point, things can get fossilized. They can get sort of, so they get kind of standardized, and that, that's it. So language then by Panini, you get classical Sanskrit, and Pandits still write in that classical Sanskrit. But before that, you clearly have a chronology. It would be very hard to argue otherwise. All right. We don't care about all of that, but just a little interest. Okay, so then where were we? So she considered that Hari, whose glories are sung by the Vedas, the Upanishads. Now, Sankhya Yoga means Patanjali, because Patanjali is not seen as distinct until much later. It's considered to be a Sankhya in the early period. And, the first commentator on Patanjali, when he finishes each chapter, Vyas, he finishes by saying, thus ends chapter 1, of Sankhya. He calls it Sankhya. That Vyas, when he's writing his commentary, the first commentary, he doesn't think he's writing a commentary on Patanjali Yoga. He calls it Sankhya. So the yoga doesn't become, now we think of there's 6 schools, and yoga's one and Sankhya's another, but not then. So she considered him to be her very own son. How could she consider that? Yoga Maya. It's a great story. Now, the next one. Chapter 9. One time, so now we know so that Leela is called the Universe in the Mouth Leela. And I can't remember what that would be in Sanskrit, doesn't matter. One time, now a new Leela. When the house servants were busy with other chores, Yashoda, Krishna's mother, the wife of Nanda, his father, churned the milk herself. Remembering the songs about the activities of her child, she sang them while she was churning yogurt. My friends, this is Kirtan. Kirtan is nothing other than this. It's a way to remember Bhagavan and his little, and the stories that we're reading, these kinds of stories, and they're composed into little songs, and we chant them. So Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radharamana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. So that's Govinda, that's the Lord of the cows, that's Krishna, and so forth. Are you all there? You've all disappeared. Is everybody there?
Yeah.
Oh, you're all
Yes,
We
there.
are here.
Oh, okay. So that's what a kirtan is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, you can read the stories and just contemplate the stories, or you can put them to song. It's just another way of contemplating this God. And contemplating God means we can just contemplate his form. We had in the past, a couple of weeks ago, we had, the kind of a Patanjalian way of Chittavritti Nirodhering the mind on God's form. You remember that? They had a couple of stories featured that. So that's one way. But this is much more fun. Instead of just fixing Nirodhering the mind on the form, you allow the mind to roam over the stories. Still completely and utterly focused on God. It's not a Nirodha practice. Who said it? Bhaktas don't want a Nirodha practice. They want their mind to be absorbed in God. They're not interested in Nirodha, especially the Nirodha that leads you to your Swarupa. You definitely don't want that. You get stuck in your Swarupa, how are you going to come out? How are you going to have a relationship with God? It sounds a bit, actually, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam says it's hell. The Swarupa, the Satchidananda, the bliss of the Vedantins, the bliss of the Upanishads speak about, the Bhagavad comes in your face. It's hell for the Bhakta. Why is it hell? Because there's no Bhagavan there. Hell is an absence for a Bhakta. Hell is the absence of the beloved. Think about it. You absolutely totally adore someone, and your whole entire 100% of your existence revolves around that person. That gets whisked away. And you're now absorbed in your own innermost consciousness. Fine, it might be blissful, but it's hell for one who has tasted the nectar of the bliss of Bhagavan. So, Yashoda churned the milk herself. So, remembering the songs about the activities of her child, I want to say this again. The songs about Kirtan are songs about the activities of Ishvara, Bhagavan. Pay attention to the lyrics next time, and you'll see the Krishna lyrics are going to be from these stories. And likewise with Shiva, of course, and the goddess. She sang them while she was churning yoga. So in other words, her hands and her body are performing her dharma, right? This is what you do. This is how do you perform bhakti in the real world? Well, let me get rid of that. Yep. She's wait, I can't do that, can I? No. How do you do dharma bhakti in the world? Well, you do your duties, but you're thinking of Bhagavan all the time, right? So her churning of the butter means for us whatever it means for us. We're teaching, feeding our kids, going shopping, all the mundane dharmas of life. What does bhakti mean? You're doing all of those while your mind is fixed on Bhagavan the whole time. One way of doing that is to have the mantra going on in the head the whole time, or another way of thinking of the stories. So here she is. She sang them while she was churning butter, meaning while she was we can read that as while she was performing the dharmas, right? Because the house servants are busy. She's performing her dharma. Yashoda churned, swaying, performing a dharma, but 100%. Not 99, not 25%, not for an hour in the morning, all day. Bhakti, if you want to get to the 100% point. And until you're there, you practice it. Just like Patanjali, you're going to be 100% Nirodha. If you're 99% Nirodha, it's useless. Your mind is still outwardly flowing and focused on the 1%. Let's say you got your mind 99% Nirodha in Patanjali Yoga. You're not having the Swarupa Vastanam experience, because what's your consciousness doing? Focusing on the 1%. Got to be 100%. All of this has got to be 100%. All of these paths. Now, until it is 100%, you're getting purified. You're making progress. It's all good. But let's be clear about what the goal is, where the bar is. Same with bhakti. Not just a little puja in the morning, and every so often you think of Bhagavan. No, 100%. It's an active practice, but it's as 100%, just as Patanjali is 100%. They're all 100%. So that's why it may take lifetimes, my friends, but so what? What else are we going to do? What else are we going to do? Watch the television? What are we going to do? So she sang them while she was churning back. So she churned, swaying back and forth. Her bracelets were moving on her arms, which were tired from pulling the rope. And then earrings were swinging to and fro. It's quite beautiful. Malati flowers dropped from her hair. and her face with its beautiful eyebrows was sweating. So, this is actually quite aesthetically beautiful. Obviously, it's translated in English, but it's very beautiful Sanskrit. She wore a linen cloth bound by a girdle on her broad sloping hips, and her quivering breasts were leaking milk out of affection for her son. It's repeated several times. Again, not to be pornographic, that's not the point. The point is to here, out of affection for her son. The leaking breasts give us a insight into her psychological state. When a mother thinks of her son, she can lactate. And that's the intensity of the thinking. So it's meant to underscore the full absorption of her mind on Bhagavan. Just so happens that she has become eligible to have a relationship with Bhagavan of this nature, because she made the 100% point in past lives. Look, this is the past life is here. But anyway, Hari approached his mother as she was churning, desiring to drink her breast milk. Grasping the stirring stick, he obstructed her, demanding her love. Right now, he's being naughty again. He climbed on her lap. Looking at his smiling face, she allowed him to drink from her breast, which was leaking milk from affection. Look, twice in 2 verses. But before he was satisfied, she put him down in a hurry and rushed off when the milk that had been on the fire boiled over. She rushes back off to take the milk off the fire. And by the way, one of the gopis are considered to be the highest bhaktas. They didn't do that. When Krishna played his flute, they had the milk on the fire. They didn't go and turn it off. They went straight to be with Krishna. Whereas Yashoda, she puts him down. Oh, she's a great bhakta. But why are the gopis the highest of all bhaktas? Why is the intensity of their love so extraordinary? It's because when he played that flute, they were nursing. They put their kids down, rushed. They didn't take the milk off the fire. Nothing. They didn't even finish putting their makeup. One had one earring on and not the other. Half dressed. Whatever state they were in, they went straight out of the door to be with Krishna in the forest. We're not going to read the Gopi Līlas. But you showed a great though she is. She did put him down and went off to put the butter off, to take the butter off the boiling butter. Furious. Okay, now Krishna's if a 1-year-old, he doesn't know the milk is boiling, or 2-year-old by now, whatever he is. So little kid, right? He's nursing. He hasn't finished. He's not satisfied. All of a sudden, your mother drops you and runs off, right? You don't know as a 2-year-old that she's going to take the milk off the stove. And so you feel like your mom is just like dumped you and ran away. So he's furious and biting his quivering red lower lip with his teeth. Krishna broke the butter churning pot with a stone. Now he's having a little tantrum. God on high. With false tears in his eyes, he went inside to a hiding place and ate the freshly churned butter. He's going to teach his mum a lesson. She just dropped him and ran off. Yashoda removed the boiling milk and came in again. Noticing the broken vessel, she saw what her son had done. Not finding him there, she laughed. Because she loves her son. She spied him standing on top, again, he's thieving, standing on top of the base of a rice husking mortar. He was wantonly giving fresh butter to a monkey from a hanging pot, looking anxious on account of his thieving. She approached her son stealthily from behind. Seeing her with stick in hand, Krishna hastily climbed down from there and fled as if in fear. It's all Leela. And now we're reminded who he is. Every so often, for like 5 or 6 verses, we get this little reminder. Right, here's an example of the little reminder. The gopi ran after him, whom the minds of yogis, directed by the power of tapas, are not able to reach. So she has this blessing, this benediction. She can, with a stick in her hand, she can run after Krishna, but he's Ishvara. And with the greatest of yogic prowess, the minds of the greatest yogis cannot reach Ishvara without surrender, without devotion. You can't do it by your virtuosity, your yogic virtuosity, by your mental willpower. You cannot attain Ishvara. You can obtain your Atman, yes, but not Ishvara. So I'll read that again. The gopi ran after him, Bhagavan, Krishna, whom the minds of yogis, directed by the power of asceticism, right? Because you nirodha the mind through tapas. That's tapas. You tapas the body, you control the senses, that's tapas. You pratyahara, that's tapas. You dhyana, dharana is tapas, right? Because the mind wants to wander and think of this, that, and the other. Tapas all the way, tapas, 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 and dhyana, tapas, tapas, willpower, gritty, tapas, tapas, and made it, samadhi, tapas, tapas, and then up through the 6 stages of samadhi, tapas, tapas, tapas. You're not going to get Ishvara that way. You will get your Atman. So the minds of yogis, directed by the power of tapas, tapas directs the mind. Why has it direct the mind? Because it controls it. As long as there's desires, the mind is agitated. It's not controlled. And so to still the desires, that's tapas. It's mental tapas. It's physical tapas, mental tapas, tapas of speech, which I have to do a bit more of. Directed by the power of asceticism, are not able to reach. The slender-waisted mother chased Krishna, her progress slowed by the burden of her broad moving hips. So beauty then in the Puranic aesthetics, just like if you go to the Met or one of these museums and you look at the women, in the sort of classic Renaissance period, they all have small breasts and rather large, derrieres, and that was considered beautiful. And and nowadays we have a different aesthetics. So in India, it would be broad, large breasts, thin waist, and large hips. That would be the perfect women. If you look at some of the iconography and the Indian temples, you see there's big breasts, heavy breasts, and then a tiny waist, and then a large, ample. You see that even in the iconography. So that would just be the aesthetic culture of the time. That changes when people write books on this about how notions of beauty changes across the ages. Right, in the 60s, we had the twiggy look and the skinny and whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so here it is. Broad moving hips. A trail of flowers falling from her loosened plait in her wake, she seized him. Of course, he allows himself to be seized. Grasping his arm, she chastised him, scaring him. Looking up with eyes agitated with fright, the guilty boy was crying and rubbing his eyes, smearing the mascara with his hands. Little boys, but even actually men, wear mascara in India. So in Rajasthan, in the village India, they wear mascara, but little boys do as well as girls. Yashoda was fond of a child, and so threw away the stick when she realized her son was frightened. Unaware of the power of her son, not like when she looked in his mouth and he lifted up for a few seconds, he lifted up Yogamaya. No, now she's under Yogamaya. So unaware of the power of her son, she wanted to bind him with a rope because, they didn't have playpens. They didn't have Toys R Us, right, or whatever, Vedic R Us. They didn't have Vedic R Us in the forest. So what are you going to do with the kid? If you're busy, there's wild animals, you're in a forest. So you tie him up. Tie him up. We call the Vedic hotline, Vedic child abuse. All right. So look at this. Now, remember I said every 5 or 6 verses we're reminded who he is, right? Here was the image of she's running after him, the gopis. The yogis can't run after him with all the tapas in the world. Their minds can't grasp him. Now we get another little reminder. She wants to bind him with a rope. Krishna has no beginning and no end. How are you going to bind something that has no beginning, no end? That is the entire universe. He's got no inside and no outside. What are you going to tie? He is the beginning and end, and he is the inside and outside of the universe. He is the universe. Good luck tying that up. But he's taken the form of this little child. So the gopi tied him with a rope to the mortar as if he were a common being. She considered Krishna, and again we're reminded now, not even 5 verses, next verse, who is the unmanifest truth beyond sense perception in the form of a human. Right? God cannot be manifest, means prakriti. Right? So prakriti, the 3 gunas. When the atmans are injected into prakriti, then prakriti starts to manifests first intelligence, and then it manifests as various. That's manifestation. In other words, it's all of that's latent within it, but it then manifests, and eventually you get the trees and the mountains and the oceans. These are manifestations of forms and qualities, forms and qualities that are latent in Prakriti. That's manifestation. But God isn't Prakritic. So how is he going to, so he cannot be manifest in that way. His form is pure it's pure consciousness. We can't see our own consciousness. How are we going to see a form made of consciousness? So therefore, we have to be given divine eyes, as Krishna says to Arjuna in the Gita, when Arjuna wants to see the form. He says, Divya dadami te chakshush. You know, I'll give you divine eyes. Otherwise, naham veda, nata, you can't see me. Naham veda, na tapasya, na dhanena, na chejaya, sakya eva vidho, drishtam drishtavam api mamlita. You cannot see me as I am in my Satchidananda form, not by study of the Vedas, naham veda, na tapasya, not by tapas, na dhanena, not by giving charity, na chejaya, not by performing grand rituals. You cannot. Bhaktyatvananyaya sakya ahameva vidu Arjuna. This is Gita. You can only see me by bhakti, because it's revelation. You can't force God to appear before you. Then he wouldn't be God, would he? He'd be like a dog. You just call him and he comes running. So therefore God manifests. And now, when's he going to manifest? When he wants to. When does he want to? When he's attracted by our love and our surrender. It's grace. So she considered Krishna, who is the unmanifest truth, beyond sense perception, in the form of a human, to be her own son. I'm going to time up now. The rope for binding a guilty child was short by 2 fingers. Dvau anguli. We just read this in Sanskrit class. We've been reading this. We're in the middle of this, actually. Oh, we haven't got this far. Where are we? We're reading this in Sanskrit. Isn't that cool? We got to... Yeah, we did 6. We did the adara, the adara, the lower rib, aruni adara. It was so we're on verse 7 on Monday. You can sit in if you want, if you know some Sanskrit. So it's like flies on the wall. Don't say anything. So because students are paying money, so they are entitled to their course. All right. So where are we? The rope for binding her guilty child was short by 2 fingers, dvau anguli. So the gopi joined another one to the first. Well, when that also was too short, she joined another one to it. But however many ropes she brought out, they were always 2 fingers lacking. This is Līlā. The Lord, the Krishna is the universe. How are you going to tie him up? So every time she adds it, and because she's under Yoga Maya, she doesn't, she knows it's odd, but she doesn't they're all chuckling. You're all under the influence of this, they're all having a good time, but they're not really thinking, why is this? She only started thinking that when he revealed himself, the universe that the universe is within him, when she looked in his mouth. So in this way, while all the gopis chuckled with amusement, Yashoda joined together all the ropes in the household, and smiling, she was struck with wonder, but not the wonder before. Now it's just like, what's going on here? How's my little Lala? How's my little Gopala doing this? She was struck with wonder. Seeing the efforts of his mother, whose limbs were sweating and whose wreath of flowers had fallen from her hair. This is really beautiful. Krishna became compliant in his own binding. He allows himself to be bound by the love of his mother. And now we step out of the narrative. We're back up in the bank of the river with Parikshit and Shuka. Remember the naked sage. This is an important point. So the author wants to stress this. So when you step out the narrative like this, it's important. He wants to stress this theological point. Indeed, by this act, dear Parikshit, the quality of submission to his devotee was demonstrated by Hari. Think about this. Theism is normally submission of the bhakta to God. We submit to God. That's what theism is supposed to be, a monotheism in all the tradition. The human submits to God. Here, once you get to the 100% mark, God submits to you. Look at this. You step out to make the point. The quality of submission to his devotee, not the devotee to God, God to the devotee, was demonstrated by Hari, despite the fact that he is only constrained by his own free will. Nothing can constrain him. But by his own free will, just as by our free will, we can choose to be devotees or not. We can choose to accept God or not. The thing about Hinduism is, in the Western tradition, and I'm going to overly generalize and be a little bit simplistic and essential. I'm going to essentialize a little bit, but typically, if you did not accept God, you were a heretic. That would you know, in certain periods and context, you could be in serious trouble. You didn't go. Whereas in India, you could be a non-theist but still be a yogi and seek your own Atman. You didn't have that. There wasn't this sort of twofold possibility, because, you know, in other words, you know, other traditions accept we're a soul and there's God, right? But in the Abrahamic tradition, there is a little bit. You'll find it among some of the Gnostics and the mystics and Sufis and like that. So it's always there on the margins. But it's really God, 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 God. There isn't this sort of other alternative. Okay, you don't want God, well, at least seek your own Atman. You don't find a lot. You don't find so much. You find a little bit scattered here and there. I'm not making an absolute statement, but really, it's heavily theistic. There isn't this sort of other possibility that you could still be a genuine spiritual seeker and seek a genuine spiritual reality in the form of your own Atman. That's a transcendent, real. It's not the ultimate, but it is a spiritual. It's a non-material goal, and it is a truth. It is a deep level truth. It's your own, the innermost being. So you have this option in the Vaidika, the post Vedic traditions. In Hinduism, you do. So you have you don't have to be a theist, and you still have, in fact, many of the paths, Sankhya, Patanjali. Even though Patanjali has an Ishvara, the goal isn't love of Ishvara in Patanjali. The goal is Swarupa Vastanam, your own Atman. So you have this strong alternative possibility in the Hindu tradition. So if you're not a theist, and you can still seek your own truth and try to overcome suffering and overcome reincarnation and karma and all of that by these parts of Jnana Yoga, Patanjali and yoga. Bhagavatam would say, actually, you can't. You really have to surrender to Bhagavan. But those traditions, if we allow them to tell their own story, those other traditions say, yes, you can. You can attain your own Atman through your own willpower, right? Patanjali is all about willpower, my friends. I know there's Ishvara Pranidhana, but it's really about vairagya, and then there's vairagya abhyasa. What's abhyasa? Yatna, tatra stito yatna, effort. What's effort? Willpower. Tatra stito yatna, dirghakala, nerantarya, and satkara sevita. You do will yatna, prayatna, right? What's that? That's will. So yatna for a long time without interruption. It's willpower. Bhakti's not like that. Of course, it's willpower and all of that, but it's much more about surrendering. You still do, from your side, you still, I guess, like the monkey. Maybe we have to do the monkey for, a certain period of time, and then we realize Vasudeva Sarvamiti. And then we just become kittens. Maybe it's not either or. Maybe it's, we have to do a certain amount, from our side, we have to show we do everything we can, but ultimately we understand it's all grace. This is a beautiful thing. So here, I'm going to read it again. By this act, dear Parikshit, the quality of submission to his devotee was demonstrated by Hari, despite the fact that he's only constrained by his own free will. By him, this universe, along with those who control it, is controlled. No one can control God. Neither Brahma, the first yogi, and the secondary engineer, though he's not, the sort of secondary creator. Vishnu, of course, creates Prakriti, but Brahma then within Prakriti creates the forms. Neither Brahma, nor Shiva, nor even Shri, the goddess of fortune, right? The consort of Narayana, Vishnu, despite being united with his body, right? Because Shri is always with Vishnu. She's always by the side of Narayana. It's always Lakshmi Narayan, Lakshmi Narayan, Lakshmi Narayan. So even it was united with Vishnu. None of them obtained the benediction which the gopi obtained from Krishna, the giver of liberation, that she could tie him up. She's not going to tie up Vishnu. She's a very formal relationship with Vishnu. I mean, she's loving, and she, but she sits there at his, massages his feet and so forth. There's a little bit more, a lot more formality in the Lakshmi Narayan dynamic. God, Bhagavan, this son of the Gopi, is not attained as easily in this world by embodied beings, nor by the wise, nor the knowers of the self, as he is by those who have devotion. You can know your own self, my friends. Look at what's being implied here. You can know your own self and not know God. You can Svarupa Vastanam. You can have attained the goal of jnana and the goal of Patanjali and know nothing about God, and not know God. Read it again. He's not attained as easily in this world by embodied beings, nor by the wise, the Vedantins, the ones who know Brahman, know Atman, nor by the knowers of the self. Actually, they know it, as he is by those who have devotion. So I want to read a little bit of a Sakya Bhav with you, but we're running out of time. This is my favorite Bhav. If I get to Goloka, I would like to be a cowherd boy. So now we're on chapter 15, and we don't have a lot of time, but you're welcome to go if you want to. Shuka said, thereafter, when they had attained the age of Poganda, right? So Poganda is 6 to 16. So there is a Yovana and Poganda, and the third stage. So Yovana, and then there's Kishore, I think, which is the first 5 years. So when they'd reached the age of Poganda, 6 to 16, the two boys were approved as cowherd men in Vraj. So at a certain age, the boys take the calves out, and the men take the bulls and the cows. So they're approved. Herding the cows along with their friends, the two made Vrindavan sacred with their footprints. Oh, okay, no, now they're even older still. Maybe we should do... Well, look here. This is another kind of loving relationship with Krishna. Now, this is not mother to a child. This is equals. So this is Sakya Bhav. Sakya Bhav is to have Krishna as your best friend. What's the defining feature of that? Equality. When you're under Yogamaya, you actually think Krishna is your equal. If you wrestle, as boys do, you think you have a 50% chance of winning. Remember, the defining feature of maternal love is protection, and the anxiety that comes from a mother, slight, anxiousness that your child is well and everything's okay. So the sort of defining feature of that love of the mother is kind of this, this kind of it's there's a little anxiety there. It's flavored with anxiety. So the defining feature of this bhavana, or in a different kind of love, is equality. You think God is your equal. So Krishna, accompanied by Balaram, with his cows in front, entered a forest that was suitable for cattle and covered with flowers. So he's a little bit older. There's a previous story where their boys are still younger, but they take the calves out, and that's the kind of Krishna that I adore myself. That's Gopala. That's the Gopal. That's with Krishna with the cow. Maybe 5. And yeah, so this is 6. So they're 5. He's taking the calves out. Little boys are taking the calves out, and the cows are all great bhaktas, and they adore Krishna, and they all nuzzle him, and they all just can't, they're all crowding around him. So that can be a calf and go loka. What's wrong with that? So this scenario is supposed to give us a picture into what does the kingdom of God look like? Well, it looks like this world, except everything's made of pure consciousness. So there's trees, there's flowers, there's jewels, but there's no matter. So there's no time. So things don't deteriorate. They're not inert. Everything is alive. There is no inert matter. There's no souls like the tree in our realm. There's a soul in the tree. The body of the tree is inert matter made of the 3 gunas. And then there's an Atman in there, karmically, has to take a birth as a tree. But in the divine realm, everything is consciousness. So there's no soul in a body. There's no inside and outside. Everything is just pure consciousness. And you take whatever form you want. That allows you to, in this realm, you take the form according to your karma. In that realm, you take the form according to the type of love. The type you want to have a maternal relationship with Krishna, you get the form of a gopi, or maybe a cow, because Krishna likes to drink milk from the cow. So you might take the form of a cow, so that Krishna will come and take milk from your teats. So the forms in the divine realm reflect the specifics of your love. If you get a form that's perfectly designed so that your love can manifest through that form in the most exquisite way. In this realm, The forms are governed and determined by karma. That's the difference. So, so this is then the little boyfriends of Krishna. So, and the landscape. So it's very beautiful. So at that time, looking for sport, looking for fun, looking for play, Madhava, Krishna, accompanied by Balaram and with his cows in front, entered a forest that was suitable for cattle and covered with flowers. He was playing his flute and was surrounded by gopas. Now the gopas are the boys, telling of his glories. And they're all bhaktas. So they're all saying, well, Krishna did this and he did that. And they're all, everything is they're doing, everything is centered on God, even though they don't know he's God. It's spontaneous and it's not generated by awe and majesty. It's just generated by pure love. Seeing the forest full of the delightful sounds of bees, deer, and birds, Bhagavan turned his mind to pleasure. The forest was enticing, abounding as it did with ponds whose water was as clear as the minds of great souls, and swept by a wind scented by 100-petal lotuses. So nature is producing its very best in honor of Krishna and as an offering to Krishna. So everything is animated and everything is putting on its best performance. Just like Indian ladies, when they go to the temple, they pull out their best, beautiful, most beautiful silk saris. Have you been to a Hindu temple? Go to a Hindu temple. And you'll see the ladies are absolutely gorgeous, all in the most beautiful silk. They'll only pull those saris out for the mandir or for very, very special occasions. So everyone's putting on their best show. I don't know about the men. They're all wearing boring old grey trousers. What happened to the men? But the ladies are still keeping that beautiful aesthetic Indian culture alive. Yeah. All right. So let's keep going. Snehi, do you have a nice word, Snehi? Snehi, do you have a beautiful sari that you wear in the mandir? You don't?
No, I don't wear saris. I just wear a nice kurta.
Okay, when next
Nice
time I go to
kurta.
India, I'm going to bring you back a beautiful Varanasi sari for the mandir.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, there we are. So Krishna, the original person, the Adi Purusha, saw the forest trees, beautiful with reddish buds, their tops bent down to touch his 2 feet everywhere, right? You touch the feet of gurus and honorable people, and even your own parents in a traditional household. Well, you're a tree, so they're bending down, they're touching. It's so beautiful. The souls in the trees are bending down so they can touch the feet of Bhagavan. The weight of their abundant flowers and fruit. Oh yeah, they're using the weight of their abundant flowers and fruits to bend down and touch his feet. Smiling a little with delight, Krishna spoke to his elder brother. Bhagavan said, just see your best of gods. After gathering offerings of jasmine, flowers, and fruits, these trees are bowing down their heads to your lotus feet. I mean, Krishna's kind of saying that to his brother. Of course, they're offering it to him, but Krishna's humble too. They're bowing their heads to your lotus feet, Krishna says to Balaram, which are worshipped by immortals. This is in order to terminate their birth as trees, which was attained through ignorance, right? So that how do you get to be born as a tree? Ignorance, avidya, right? Klesha, avidya. Avidya is mula, advidya, kshetra mutaresham. It's the field of the other kleshas, ignorance, right? So drishta. So then you make karma, and so how do you get rid of all of that karma? Well, in bhakti, you just if you actually get to touch Bhagavan, boom, it's all over. You never take, that's it. You touch Bhagavan, and for us, that we touch Bhagavan with our mind. We bring Bhagavan into our mind in the form of samskara, in the form of kirtan, like Yashoda was thinking of the stories, or we think of, or we keep the mantra in our minds. This is bhakti. These bees are singing your glories, Krishna says, to his brother, which are the subject of veneration for the whole world. Everybody's venerating. I mean, all cultures have some notion of God. Well, many cultures do. As their veneration for the whole world. As they pursue you along the way, the bees, they're worshiping you, original person, right? They're buzzing around, and that's their way of worshiping God. They're trying to buzz as nicely as they can. Krishna's garland is always wearing the forest garlands and always bees buzzing around there because they're attracted to Krishna. They're pretending to be attracted to the Dharma, but really they're attracted to Krishna. They are mostly the host of sages. To be born as a bee when Krishna's incarnating, you've got to be a great sage in the past life to get to be a bee when God is on the earth. So they are mostly the host of sages. Your most fervent devotees from past lives. Don't think you can just barge into Krishna's Vrindavan without any the requisite qualifications, my friends. Although deep in the forest, they do not abandon the Lord of their heart, O one without sin. The forest dwellers are truly fortunate. These peacocks are dancing, O praiseworthy one, and the does are joyfully soliciting your affection with glances, as if they were gopis. The whole of nature is worshipping God. Nature is. This reminds us of the Old Testament, where the whole universe is singing Hallelujah. There's a lot of overlap. The flocks of cuckoos welcome you with Vedic hymns, right? So their cooing is they're really sages chanting hymns from past life, but it's because they're in the form of cuckoos, but they, which is good. They're good because they've taken birth as when Krishna's there. All of their many lives of being a sage has now finally reached its culmination, because they'll never be born again, because they're not taken birth when Krishna, they see Krishna. So their Vedic hymns are coming out as coos. You have come to their home, such is the nature of great saints. So let's skip. Sri Shuka said, 9. In this way, Krishna enjoyed beautiful Vrindavan, happy in spirit, grazing the cows on the mountain riverbanks together with his friends. Okay, so these are the different kind of love now. These are the sakas, Sakya Bhav. Sometimes when the bees sang, blinded with intoxication, Krishna, whose deeds are sung, would sing along the way with his followers. So he would join in with the bees, and they'd have this nice little harmonious little sing-along. He was accompanied by his brother. Sometimes he would honk in imitation of the honking swans. Sometimes he would dance in imitation of the dancing peacocks, giving rise to laughter. Right? He's only 6. So, kids like to imitate animals. Sometimes in a voice that was pleasing to the cows and cowherd boys and was as deep as the rumbling of a cloud, he would call by name the cows who had strayed far off. He would imitate the sound of birds such as the chakora, the krauncha, that's a stork, the chakravaka, the bharadravaj, and the peacock, as if afraid of the tigers and lions from the animal kingdom. So he would make the noise of of birds when they're afraid of there were tigers in the forest there. At other times, he would give relief to his elder brother by personally massaging his feet. As Balaram, fatigued from playing, used the lap of a gopa as a cushion. So he would serve his brother, and he would serve the other cowherd boys too. Sometimes holding hands and laughing. This is what you do with God if you want to love God as a friend. There may be different kinds of friendship, like Arjuna's friendship is a little bit more formal, a little bit and much elder. But if you want to have, if you're a way you want to love God, you get to choose the way you love God. All right, we've seen what a mother looks like, what the motherly love looks like. It's protective, it's playful, it's you kind of delight in the mischief of your child. This is what young friendship looks like. You wrestle, you play, imitate the animals, right? So this is supposed to give us a kind of a window into the spiritual realm. Sometimes holding hands and laughing, the two boys would urge on the cowherd boys, and they're dancing, they're singing, they're jumping about and wrestling with each other. These are kids having fun in the forest. Sometimes exhausted from the effort of wrestling, Krishna would lie down on a bed of buds, taking shelter at the base of a tree. He would use the lap of a gopa or one of his little friends as a pillow. Some great souls, right? Because the gopas, the little boys, were great souls in past lives, and that's how they got to be gopas. Some great souls would massage his feet, and others whose sins had been eradicated. You can't get to massage God's feet unless you're completely pure. They called him with fans. Others, their hearts moved with love. This is all about love. Would softly sing songs for that great soul that were appropriate to the occasion, like ragas, right? Ragas are appropriate to the time of day. So songs are appropriate to the time of day and pleasing to the mind. In this way, Krishna concealed his personal nature. Back to Yogamaya. Concealed his personal nature. What's his personal nature? Narayana, Bhagavan, Supreme, by his own Maya. Okay, that's the Yoga Maya, not the regular Maya. And imitated the nature of the son of a cowherd man by his activities. Although he can conduct himself as the Supreme Lord, and although his bud-like feet are caressed by the goddess of fortune when he takes the form, when he manifests as Vishnu, he can nonetheless enjoy himself like a villager in the company of villagers. So take your pick, my friends. If you want to be a theist, if you're a monotheist and you're attracted to Indian bhakti, take your pick. What kind of bhakti do you want? Want majesty or Narayana? You want feminine powers, Durga, many forms of the Devi, Kali, Lakshmi. You want, dharma and righteousness with Rama. You want playfulness, Krishna. Playfulness and just pure love. Once the cowherd boy called Sri Dharma, a friend of Balaram and Keshava, the Gopas, such as Subha, spoke lovingly as follows. Oh, Balaram, Balaram, Almighty Am Krishna, scourge of miscreants. Right? Because sometimes the odd demon comes into Vrindavan in the shape of a huge animal. Not far from here is a huge forest full of rows of palmyra trees. Abundant fruits have fallen. Anyway, so they urge Krishna on. Okay, let's read a bit more and then we'll stop because it's 8:02. Abundant fruits have fallen and keep falling there, but they are guarded by the evil soul Dhenuka. Oh, Balaram Krishna, he's an extremely powerful demon who has assumed the form of a donkey. He's surrounded by many other kinsmen whose strength is equal to his. So some of these demons come in trying to kill Krishna in Vrindavan. But they're in this grove full of fantastic fruit trees, and the little boys want the fruit, but they're afraid of these demons. So, but they know Krishna can take care of the situation. And here we get another example of Krishna serving his bhaktas. They want the fruit, and he says, "Okay, let's go get the fruit." The forest is not frequented by humans and herds of cows because they're terrified of him, O destroyer of enemies. He has devoured human beings, this demon and the donkey demon. He's even shunned by flocks of birds. Fragrant fruits that have never before been eaten are found there. In fact, this all-pervading fragrance of the fruits can be detected at this moment. Obtain those fruits for us, Krishna. Our minds are disturbed by their smell. So their little boys, they want this tasty fruit that no one's tasted before, but afraid of the donkeys. Our desire is great, Balaram. So if you like, let us go. After hearing those words from their friends, the two lords laughed. Surrounded by their friends, they went to the Palmyra forest, desiring to please them. Balaram entered and then, with strength like an elephant, shook the Palmyra trees with his arms, making the fruit drop. When he heard the sound of the falling fruit, the donkey demon came rushing up, making the surface of the earth, as well as his mountains, quake. Encountering Balaram, that mighty demon turned around and struck him on the chest with two of its legs. The wicked fellow circled Balaram, making a ka-ka-ka sound. The enraged ass attacked again. Rump first, it kicked furiously at Balaram with its two hind legs, O king Parikshit. So sometimes, there are some of these stories involve demons that enter into Vrindavan trying to kill the boys. And they're all dispatched, obviously, as this one is going to be. Balaram seized the donkeys by two legs and whirled him around with one hand. When the donkey had died from the whirling, Balaram hurled him to the top of a palm tree. Struck by the donkey, the great Palmyra tree with its huge top trembled, causing its neighboring tree to shake. This latter tree broke and made the next tree shake, and that tree did likewise to another. Thus, struck by the dead body, hurled effortlessly by Balaram, all of the trees shook as if agitated by a great wind. This is not remarkable for Bhagavan. What's that? Bhagavan created the universe? What's the big deal about knocking a few trees over? Who is, after all, the unlimited Lord of the universe? By him, this universe is woven lengthwise and crosswise. That's an old metaphor from the Upanishads, by the way. Like a cloth on threads, my dear Parikshit. Then all of the donkeys of Dhenuka rushed towards Krishna and Ram, furious that their relative had been slain. So they have fun killing demons. Krishna and all the demons that are killed by Krishna, they all get liberated. They all, because they've been touched by God. So you'll get immediately all of their demoniac, they're just, Atmans in extraordinarily tamasic minds, and Rajasic, Tamasic kind of very, very klishta, but they're Atmans too. So when they get touched by God, they become purified. They all get liberated. They may not go, they don't get the liberation the bhaktas want. There's different kinds of liberation, by the way. I keep saying that. They don't get the Goloka liberation, but they get liberated because they've been touched by God. So Krishna and Rama seized each one of them by their rear legs as they came hurtling forward and threw them effortlessly into the palm trees, O king. The ground was colored with heaps of bodies of dead demons, tops of trees and fruit strewn all about. It resembled the surface of the sky, colored by clouds. And then, of course, the celestials are watching all this. They have balcony seats, and they love all of this Leela. So they're not allowed to participate because they don't have enough bhakti. They have good karma. They've got to the celestial realm, but they don't have enough bhakti. But they have enough that they can watch in a formal sort of way from a distance. So when they heard of the pair's marvelous feat, the celestials released showers of flowers, played instruments, and offered eulogies. Thus, people ate the fruit of the palm trees, and the cows grazed in the forest of the dead Dhenuka without fear. We'll just have a quick verse of the gopis. This is another kind of love again then. So there's the love of the mother, the love of the friends, and then there's the love of the gopis, the young girls, Krishna's age, who just adore him. And the characteristic of that kind of love is you just adore Krishna as a most gorgeous male. So that love is sensuous and romantic and romantic. So after this, lotus-eyed Krishna returned home to Vraj to the praise of his followers. They love to sort of, he does this every day. Every day there's some amazing adventure like this. And so the little boys all go home and then they tell all their parents, well, Krishna did this and Krishna did that. That's what Krishna consciousness is. That's what Krishna bhakti is. It's keeping the mind fixed on Krishna. Of course, it's easy when Krishna is doing all this amazing stuff. How would you not? Right? Think of some little trivial thing happens to you in the day and you think about it and you go back and you tell everybody. Well, imagine some of the things Krishna does, like lifting a mountain on his little finger. So then they all return home to the praise of his followers, the gopas. Hearing and reciting about him are means to purification. Here, now this is for us. Hearing the stories and kirtans and reciting them are the means to purification and also the means to get bhakti. Here's the gopis. They came forward in a body, their eyes hungry for a sight of him. So they just think of him as gorgeous male. And their Leela comes in chapter 29, a bit later on. Smeared with the dust of cows, Krishna had a charming smile and delightful eyes. Forest flowers and a peacock feather were attached. Krishna always has a peacock feather. That's how you know it's Krishna. Vishnu doesn't have a peacock feather. So how is Krishna different from Vishnu in terms of iconography? And he has a flute and a peacock feather. He has two other things that you can't see, but these two things you can see. He was playing his flute and his glories were sung by his followers. After drinking the honey of Mukunda's face with their bee-like eyes, the women of Vraj cast off their fever born of separation during the day. During the day, Krishna's out with his friends and everyone's in a fever of separation. Where's Krishna? Where's he going to come home? Where is he going to come? This is love of God. So he's out playing with the friends in the day, and then the gopis are all pining. And both the elderly ones and the younger gopis are pining, waiting for him to come at home at night. So this is the fever born of separation, right? Because he's in the forest during the day. After accepting their welcome reception, conveyed from the corners of the gopis' eyes, right? The gopis are flirting with him and glancing at him, right? So we haven't had time to read a gopi Leela, but I wanted to get at least two kinds of bhavs, two kinds of love, maternal and friendship. Gopis is a whole other thing, and it's more theologically complicated. Well, it's not really complicated at all. But it just needs a little bit of delicacy because it can be misunderstood. So conveyed from the corners of the gopis' eyes with modesty, giggles, and bashfulness, right? So they're little young girls, and they all have not just a crush, they have totally and utterly, completely absorbed, but it manifests through the mind of a 6-year-old girl. So they're giggling and bashful, and and that's the way they love God. Krishna entered the cow compound. But now we're back to the motherly bhav. Yashoda and Rohini were affectionate toward their boys, heaped their best blessings for the occasions on their 2 sons to their heart's content. At home, the boys' weariness from the road was removed by bathing. So now this is how the mothers love their kids, by bathing and massage and so forth. They then dressed them in beautiful clothes and were adorned with lovely garlands and scents. The 2 pampered boys ate the food offered to them by their mothers, lay down on the best quality beds, and went happily to sleep in the land of Vraj. There you are, my friends. Take it or leave it. That's a little snapshot into Krishna Bhakti. That's it. I did my job. I gave you a taste. I gave you a little glimpse at it. That was my intention. And any questions, or anybody want to say anything? Or I'm just actually going to go and get some tea because I've been talking, and I'll be right back. If you want to take a bathroom break, you can do that. Okay. Any questions, or hope you enjoyed the stories. Snehi?
Oh, may I say? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Snehi.
Oh, I just wanted to say it was just so beautiful to read these stories. And my mother was from Mathura, so it just reminded me so much about her because she was such a Krishna hot. So that was very beautiful. But I also had some definitions I want to get straight in my head. We use this word punya a lot and we translate it as merit. But I wonder, what does punya, like in Sanskrit, what does that word actually mean?
It's actually cognate with the English word purify, pu, because pu, it means to purify. So then the dhatu, the Sanskrit root, the verbal root is pu, and that means to purify. So it's an old Indo-European root, and the same pu is preserved in the English word purify. So punya, punya is that which purifies.
Okay, and obviously purifying your mental consciousness.
Yes. Well, I mean, it is for yogis, but punya can can actually mean you just make merit. Outside of a yogic context, obviously yogis want to purify the kleshas, but outside of that, just for regular folks, punya just means accumulating good karma. But no, usually punya means, that you do, punya can also mean usually it means to purify your karma. Yes, that's pretty much, it means that. So you take bath in the Ganga, that's punya. You go on pilgrimage, you get punya. And many people want punya so they can go to the celestial realm. So I'm not sure if I would imagine, yes, an Indo-European root. So probably it goes back to Vedic ritualism, and you get punya, and then you get to go to the celestial realm. So, but common denominator is it purifies and it accumulates merit as well as purifying.
So because I don't know if I'm conflating this with Buddhism and with the Indian tradition, where there's also the separate thing of purification.
Yeah.
And so in the Indian tradition, is there also a separate things you do under sort of this category of purification separate from punya?
Well, I think
in Buddhism, there's this, you need to accumulate merit and purify, like that. Those are the two things.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if there's a parallel to that in the Indian tradition, like punya, you accumulate merit, but also like purification.
I'm not sure it's really quite so distinct. I would think it'd be the same thing. So if you're accumulating merit, you're also purifying yourself. And acts of charity, bathing in the Ganga are both purify your sins. That's why people go to the Ganga, right? So they purify, wash away all their sins. But you're at the time, so that's purification, but you're also accumulating merit. You're also, might end up in a celestial realm. So I'm not sure there's a hard and fast boundary between the idea of accumulating merit and purification.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's sort of kind of feedback, like generosity and stuff would also be accumulating merit and kind of purifying yourself of stinginess and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're accumulating merit, then you are purifying yourself, because otherwise, how can you can't go to a celestial realm if you're not pure, somewhat pure, not like a yogi pure, but sort of, like a sattva kind of pure. Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask,
but Bhakti would say, Bhakti would say you don't have to, if you're a Bhakti, you don't do any of that. You specifically and consciously and theologically don't do any of that, because the highest purifier of all is the Mahama, is thinking of Bhagavan and chanting the name of Bhagavan. So that's all you do, and you do not need to do some lesser thing, because whatever benefit might accrue from all of that is all contained and vastly eclipsed by the power of Bhagavan and the power of the practices of bhakti.
Thank you. And my last term is, at least at home, like when we want blessings, we ask for Ashirvad.
Yeah.
But is there another word for blessing that is used? Like I don't know if this is correct. Is it pranidhana is surrender. I don't know. I've heard another word in Sanskrit for blessing, and I was just wondering if there's a difference.
I mean, if you remember it, email it to me. I can only think of Ashirvad. Yeah.
Okay.
And ash means hope, Ashirvad. So they kind of like hopeful wishes. Ashirvad.
Okay, I have the other words somewhere written down, so I'll email that to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Snehi, always nice to see you. Jennifer.
Hello, Edwin. Hello, Professor.
Hi.
Greetings. I was chanting with Leslie Freiberg last week at a chant retreat, and she says hello.
Oh, okay. Next time you see us, say hello back.
We all make name tags, and she wrote the name you gave her on her name tag.
Oh, Vachasvini. Was it Vachasvini? Okay.
Exactly. Yes, yes. She's doing well. We were 16 of us in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We chanted the Chamakam and some other chants. What I'm missing from that is I didn't sense a devotional or bhakti element there. But and her teacher is a her teacher's teacher was Deskachar, so in the lineage at least of Krishnamacharya, of course. But that's what's missing in Zen. But I still go for the experience of pronunciation and chant and the elevated sense of communion. Two questions.
Yeah.
One is I heard one could be a friend, a mother, or a lover of Krishna. And what you said, there were more Leelas on the gopis. So if you could suggest a few to follow up with, I would like to pursue those. And secondly, you've used the word grace. And I wonder if you could say a little bit more about that. And because I get that you say it's by grace. So those are my two questions.
You wanted to read the Gopi Leelas?
Please.
Yeah, if you send me an email, I'll send you the 5 Gopi Leelas as an attachment.
I shall. Thank you.
Yeah, they're not on the web. They're not up. They weren't up. They're not on the website. Yeah, it's all great. It's grace. Bhakti is a gift. You know, we talk about love of God, but actually you can't love something that you don't have a samskara for. So if you think about, you know, you like, let's just use a mundane example of Ben and Jerry's, right? Let's suppose you like Ben and Jerry's. Now, why do you like Ben and Jerry's? Because you sampled a Ben and Jerry once upon a time. There must have been the first sample, and then that gets imprinted in your mind as a samskara, and now you have a memory of it, and then that resurfaces, and you now like that, and you say, I love Ben and Jerry ice cream. But that initial, it has to come in from the outside. So the things that we love in our, you know, anything in the mind has to come into the mind from the outside. Nothing self-manifests in the mind. There's no magic in the mind. So therefore, all attractions that we have come from the senses contacting particular sense objects. Now, so we encounter Krishna through the stories and through the bhaktas and through the, you know, and in various ways. And we get attracted to that, but the love itself, our mind becomes somehow or other, we become attracted to it if we have a bhakta disposition. But actual love of God, because love of God, we saw the story, it binds God. God becomes subservient to the bhakta. So God is not going to become subservient to somebody who is not 100% pure. It has to be, you know, God is the most priceless thing. So therefore, a God bestows love. So what we do when we're doing bhakti is we're trying to attract the attention of Bhagavan with our little pathetic little offerings and our pujas and our little attempts with bhakti. But what we're really doing is we're waiting for grace. We're hoping to attract Bhagavan's attention. And then Bhagavan bestows love. And when that love bestows it, and then it blows the mind, it blows the body, it blows, you know, and physiologically the body goes, you know, just, you know, it's not wired, it's not hardwired. So really, and there you get all these ecstatic symptoms. But it's grace. And maybe, I don't know if that's a great word, but it's a gift from God. Love is given by God. It's not something that kind of pops out of nowhere. It has to be given like anything else in the mind comes into the mind from the outside. So love of God has to come in from the outside. But, you know, we can, you know, from our side, before we get love, we, you know, hopefully we have some attraction. I mean, there must be some attraction. Otherwise we wouldn't be on the path of bhakti. So somehow or other, is that the grace of God? Yeah, probably. I think if I have to think about my own experiences, I think it's all was a gift. And now why? There can't be a reason. Therefore they call it causeless. Because if there's a reason, then that reason then controls love. There's a reason you did something, and now, you know what I mean? You did something, so that means that you, by your own machinations, by your own endeavors, can get it. Well, that means, in a sense, God is now subject to that, right? So the Krishna tradition makes a point of it. It's causeless. We cannot understand what the cause is. And that's just another way of saying it's grace.
In a way, what I hear is that striving for it is not grace.
We strive for it, but we understand it. We strive because from our side, we have to try to attract the attention of Bhagavan. Otherwise, how are we different from anybody else? So we strive for it, but we understand that it's a gift. And therefore there has to be humility and patience, and one shouldn't get frustrated if it appears one is getting neglected by Bhagavan, the separation. So so yeah, we strive. Of course, the yogis, the bhaktas, are regular yogis. They're following the yamas and niyamas, the kriya yoga. They're doing tapas, all of that. They're doing all of that, but they're doing it from their side as kind of pitiful, because what else can we do? So we're doing
But
what
not a
we can from our
paritama.
side, but yeah, we have to do something. But we understand it's ultimately completely grace. So so we're just trying to somehow or other capture the attention of Bhagavan. Yeah, that's what bhakti is. I mean, it's so many things, but that's one of the things it is. Okay, Jennifer, we'll take Ila. Hello, Ila. There we are. I think you have to
So
unmute.
now I made my mic on. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so nice talking to you. I really appreciate a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yes, but the stories are beautiful. So, how can, I mean, they have a power of their own. They have a magic of their own. But go ahead.
Yeah, I just love it. And but I for a long time I always thought gopis are the young girls who have been with Krishna. And now I read that Mother Yashoda and Rohini are also gopis. So I'm wondering, what is a gopi?
Well, a go means a cow.
Yeah.
So, and it is an Indo-European word, because in English we have ka. So g and ka are guttural sounds. They come from the base of the throat. So that's called gutturals in linguistics. So the ka, cow, and the go, originally, what is it in German?
Cow and ku.
Cool. So you have the same, you see, English is Germanic, so English is Saxon. So you have ku, cow, go. So that means way back in ancient, before any recorded literature, before any writing, before inscriptions, maybe 5,000-6,000 years ago, there was an Indo-European word for cow that had a guttural and a vowel. So that's what a go is. And then pa in Sanskrit means to protect. And if it's a short a, it's masculine. So gopa is the male protector of the cow. And the long I is always feminine. So if you want to say the females, then you'd say gopi. Now that word gopi doesn't imply any age. It just means a female protector of the cow. There's no age indicated in the word. So there's elderly gopis, and anyone who, everybody in Vrindavan, all the females, every single female in Vrindavan, because that entire community, that was their livelihood. They looked after cows and they sold the milk products. That's how they made their living. So all the females are gopis at any age, and all the males are gopas.
So, but the Gopi Leelas, I mean, they're leaving their husbands and they go in the night. During the night, they go to see Krishna.
Yes.
But they don't. Do they leave with their subtle or with their?
No, they leave with their bodies, and a couple of them leave in the subtle because their husbands prevent them, so they just leave their bodies behind and keep going in the subtle body. But otherwise, they're in their physical bodies. But when they go back home, then Krishna, just like Yashoda, forgets everything. So all of the husbands, everybody forgets that the wives have, so they don't get into trouble or anything. Everything is back to normal. So, but yes, they go in their physical bodies.
So what part of the human mind or the intellect, or what is it what makes them so attracted to Krishna? I mean, what part of what?
The mind.
I mean, the mind.
Yes,
it's the mind.
Yeah.
So the love is in the mind.
Yes.
The devotion.
Yes.
Okay.
So then when you get it, if you go to God's kingdom, then you need to get another body mind so that you can, because otherwise the Atman is just, it's like a battery. So the Atman, if in its own nature, then Svarupa Vastanam, then it has no mind, no intellect, no cognitive systems, no central systems, nothing. It's just pure consciousness, conscious of consciousness. And that's the goal of the Gyanis, and that's the goal of the yogis. But the bhaktas don't want that. They want mind and senses so that they can have all various modalities of relationship with God. So they want to see God and smell God and touch God and taste God. So they want to have all this variegatedness. Bhakti is full of variegatedness. So in this realm, that we do it with our physical bodies and minds. But if you get to the 100% point and you go to Krishna's divine realm, then you get a spiritual body mind. But it's not that but that body and mind are you. It's not like you're an Atman in a spiritual body mind. Like now we're Atmans in a prakritic body. So there's a difference between our body and the Atman. There's a difference between the inside and the outside, but not in the divine realm. There is only, everything is pure consciousness. There is no inside and outside. But nonetheless, you still have these bodies which allow flavors, they allow variegatedness, and there's infinite variegatedness. And love itself is full of infinite twists and turns and possibilities, because the divine realm is infinite, but it's not infinite in a passive, quality-less, form-less, and just Satchidananda consciousness. Not like that. That realm is the opposite. It's maximum. It's infinite variegatedness. So yeah. So I don't know if some of that.
But this is not something we go. Oh, there's one other thing. So we purification is purifying the mind.
Yes.
But this is the other realm is not something where we go, but this is something which we realize, because it's here and now and there, but it's only we can realize this through devotion and purifying the mind.
Yes, but there's also a realm.
Yeah.
Once the mind is completely pure, then you have a choice. Either your pure mind can, attain the state of the Atman, which is infinite, blissful, but quality-less, formless, infinite Satchidananda. That's one kind of option that the Jnana traditions seek. But the other possibility is, and it's not that we go to a divine realm. Actually, everything is coexisting, just in a different. It's a different tattva. It's coexist. Not that we physically go like in some kind of geographically moving sort of sense. Everything is coexisting. The divine realm coexists with this realm, but we just kind of switch. Our perceptions change, and our access to different realities. We gain access to different realities when the mind is pure. And when the mind is pure and imbued with a love of God, then that's one has access to a different dimension altogether, a different possibility altogether. So the goal of the bhakta is different from the goal of the jnani. The jnani seeks the Atman, the bhakta seeks Atman. You pick it up on the way. It's not that you don't pick up the Atman, but that's not the end of the journey. Now you've realized your Atman, but you now want to connect your Atman with a supreme Atman, and there's different ways of doing that, and therefore there are different types of spiritual forms and spiritual flavors of love, and the Krishna Līlā gives us a little bit of a clue, gives us a little bit of an insight, a bit of a vision of what pure love of God in the ultimate eternal realm might look like. Just like the American Cultural Center in Delhi gives us a little bit of an idea of what America might be like.
Okay.
Not a bad example.
So through bhakti we get grace.
Yes. I mean, bhakti is grace, but yes, through following the practices of bhakti, yeah, fair enough. We seek grace, and if we're fortunate enough to please Bhagavan by our acts of bhakti, then we're given love. That love is a gift.
Yes. Okay.
So, we have there must be some attraction for us to do bhakti in the first place. So that must be coming from our own minds, or maybe not. Maybe even that is a gift of God. Who can say? Who can say? And that's why that's why it's called causeless. It has no cause. We'll never understand. Why are we bhaktas? We could say, well, we were a bhakta in a past life, right? Well, why were we a bhakta in a past life? Well, the life before that, but at some point there must have been that first Ben and Jerry ice cream. There must have been that first attraction. Where did that come from? So that must have been grace somehow or other. And why one person gets it and the other not? We can't. There's no way of fathoming that. I mean, there's clearly free will. It's not that God forces everybody to love him or to seek him. There has to be free will. So there has to be the option of not seeking God. And then the Indian tradition has this major other option, much more developed than in at least Christendom over the last couple of thousand years, a much more developed option of not seeking God, but seeking your own soul, non-material soul. That's a much more robust and tons of literatures and guidance on the jnana. That's called jnana. That's the jnana path. That's a much more developed in India than it might be elsewhere, where either you're a theist or you're a heretic. There's less of this other possibility, although you see it amongst some great Christian mystics. You see a bit of that.
I know.
Like Therese of Avignon and Saint John of the Cross. They if you read them, they sound like gyanis, actually, bhakti flavored gyanis.
Yes.
Is that okay, Monica? No, that's not Monica. You're sorry, I beg your pardon. Ila.
I'm Ila.
Ila.
Okay, Professor. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Ila. Let's give Monica a chance. Here we go, Monica.
Namaste, Edwin.
Namaste, Ji. Oh, did you write to me yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for
Yes.
answering my email.
So hopefully you get a sense of that. There, there's an introduction to. I wrote this book, Bhakti Yoga, which explains all of this. Advaita Vedanta. In the introduction, you can actually download the introduction for free from my on the website. Go to the Swadhyaya for this workshop, and I didn't realize it was up there, but it's there. If you go to that introduction, it's a big, long 100-page, more than 100 pages. But there's one section called Brahman, Bhagavan, Ishvara, which I think may be of interest to you, given your question in the email this morning. But how is Bhagavan understood in Advaita Vedanta? How is it understood in in other traditions, and how is it understood in the Vaishnava traditions? I think you might find that of use.
Yes. And along the same lines, I had a question that I wanted to ask. How is bhakti different in the different traditions? So, for example, a Brahmin in Rishikesh, how would they be worshiping as opposed to Bhakta in Vrindavan?
Well, if you read the intro, I think you'll probably get, if you read that, I think you'll get a lot of those kinds of, some, for some bhakti, I mean, bhakti has so many different forms. There's bhakti there's Vedic ritualism, which is a kind of bhakti to lower level beings, celestial beings. So the old Vedic rituals were kind of bhakti to Indra and those kinds of deities. As a matter of fact, the Arya Samaj that you mentioned, Dayananda tried to bring back some of that old, he didn't like this Purana. Dayananda didn't like the Puranas and Ram and Krishna. He was that he wanted to go back to the old, what he called the Aryans, because that notion of the Aryans was introduced by the British, actually, because the British were the Europeans were looking for the original homeland of the Aryans. But anyway, that's another story. So Dayananda then tried to reintroduce what he thought was the pristine, original Vedic culture before he considered that, the Puranas to be a deviation and a kind of a later unfortunate development. So he tried to go back to the old Vedic ritualism. But anyway, so that's a kind of bhakti, but to devas. But bhakti is very different in Kashmir Shaivism. You do bhakti to Shiva, but ultimately you become Shiva. You Shivoham. The ultimate goal of Kashmir Shaivism, okay, you do bhakti, but eventually you yourself become that Shiva. So therefore that bhakti evaporates at that point because you become Shiva. See, in Vaishnavism, there's eternal distinction. So therefore there can be eternal bhakti, eternal love, because there's always an eternal distinction between Bhagavan and the jiva. And then there's Shaiva Siddhanta, and there's very many modalities.
What about in Rishikesh?
Well, Rishikesh is just a geographical place. It tends to be a stronghold of Advaita Vedanta because, there was, to a great extent, the great Shivananda, when he settled there wasn't much there when Shivananda went there. In the end of the 19th century or earlier 20th century, Shivananda, the great Shivananda, and because he became as a national figurehead, then the town, that we think of as today as Rishikesh, that started to develop around, there's a whole book on this, around Shivananda. I'm not saying there wasn't anything there, but there wasn't really a town as it is today. It was just Babas living in little huts and little ashrams along the Ganga. So it's, yeah.
I know a teacher in Rishikesh. He's a Brahmin, he's a brahmacharya who communicates with me. I ask him questions and he, helps me out. And I mentioned, I showed some of your writings, I have your book, to him, and he was very curious about who it was. And then I told him it was you. And he said, oh, I know him very well. I was really surprised. Do you know somebody by the name of Siddhartha Krishna?
Siddhartha?
Krishna.
No, I don't. I'm not that I can think of. But
Okay,
anyway, Monica, look, being a Brahmin is not really relevant, because Brahmins can be Vaishnavas, Brahmanas can be Advaitins, Brahmanas can be Kashmir Shaivas, Brahmanas can be anything. Brahman is just a caste. So the Brahmana the fact of being a Brahmana does not indicate the kind of bhakti that you do. A Brahmana can choose. So, so South Indian Vaishnavas are all Brahmins, the big, huge temples in Tamil Nadu and so forth. So that's not really a way.
They are reading the Gita, so they are worshiping Krishna, but it's very different than Vrindavan.
Yes, because Vrindavan, everyone reads the Gita, but there are different interpretations of the Gita. The Shankara, there's the Advaita interpretation of the Gita. That's different from the Vaishnava one. That's what I try to put in the email this morning. So why don't you read the introduction, just and read that slowly, and then that will give you some material to engage and maybe help you fine-tune your thinking a little bit, and then see what you think after that.
Okay.
It's on the website. You can just download it.
Okay.
At the bottom of all the reading for this workshop. I didn't even know it was there, but there it is.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
Okay, Monica. Do we have any other questions, my friends? Because if not, I will bid you all good night and farewell. So I think what we'll do is I'm thinking of doing a Vedanta Sutra workshop before I head out to India. So I don't know, January, February, like that, maybe January. How does that sound? And then at some point, I'm on sabbatical next year and I have to sort of write a book. That'll be my last kind of intellectual. And then I'm just going to translate Sanskrit. But I will at some point start a regular Bhagavata satsang katha. It's called katha, the stories. I'll just have to decide when when is a good time to start that. But I would like to do at least the Vedanta Sutra, make that available to everybody, because I think you should all have a clearer idea of what the heck is this Vedanta. Everybody talks Vedanta, but nobody has a clue what it is. So the word Vedanta is like yoga. It's been sort of transplanted and just everything is Vedanta, or everything's Vedic. Vedanta is a very specific kind of enterprise. Just like yoga, there's a big difference between yoga on the high street and yoga Patanjali, as you know. So likewise with Vedanta, we'll read the Vedanta Sutras, and you'll be more informed consumers, and you'll have a little bit more sophistication in your understanding of where you fit in this huge universe with all these constellations. You know, there isn't a Hinduism. There are just sort of these constellations, you know, Vaishnava, South Indian Vaishnava, Kashmir Shaivism, Advaita Vedanta. There's these constellations that overlap in many ways, but are very distinctive and unique in many other ways. So Vedanta is part of that rubric that I think you should have a sense about. So we'll probably, you know, put something together on that, and then I would just like to read the Bhagavatam. For me, it's the sadhana. It's, but you know, it's you know, by reading it together, it would just bring it make it alive. So I have to decide whether to just do the 10th book and the stories of Krishna, or do, you know, like in this Svadhyaya, we did, you know, 7, we did some other chapters. We did the stories of the great yogis. But I might just like to read the Krishna Līlā with you. How does that sound? Well, you can let me know. This is actually the whole thing. Penguin Classics. I translated the whole thing, 90 chapters. And then I took about 20 of them and I put them in the blue book. I'll just, you know, so if we do the Bhagavatam, because that, you know, that's the text that for me, that's my canonical text. So as I get older and I'm less interested in learning and less interested in all of this Vedanta, this, that, and the other, I'm just fed up with it all. You know, at a certain point, you have to put the books down and enough. You go deep into your, whatever it is that you want your mind to be at the moment of death. You're younger, okay, you can study and run around and read this and read that and broaden your horizons, and that's all very good but at some point you got to go deep. Otherwise, it's just buddhi vritti. You're just jumping about, buddhi vritti. That's not going to be helpful at the moment of death, my friends. So, so therefore, for me, it's the Bhagavatam. So because that's my thing, I feel, you know, you should read these texts with or any subject, you should read it with someone for whom it's really meaningful, because that person will bring it alive. Because if that person lives in that, whatever that tradition is, like if you're going to do finances, you know, learn from someone that really, you know, that really is into finances, that sees the world through the lens of finances, that thinks the world's problems are going to be solved by financial, you know, changes and so forth. So you really want to study anything with someone that really believes it, really lives in it, really sees the world through that lens, and really feels that that's what the world needs. So for my canonical text is the Bhagavatam. So that's what I would do. All right. I'm babbling. So I'm rambling. So I'll bid you all good night. And you let me know if you do want to do the Bhagavatam, whether you'd want to do, you know, it's 90 chapters, 90 of the Krishna Līlā, or whether you want to do the other 9 books and some Krishna Līlā, but you know, work through it's a huge text, and there's no way we're going to read the whole text. There's 18,000 verses, so we still have to be selective. But whether you want to do what we did in this workshop, we picked some of the great stories and looked at the great stories. So you can drop me an email. All right. So good night, everybody. Jai Sri Radhe Shyam, Sri Radhe 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 Shyam.
Thank you, Edwin.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, Professor.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Till next time.
Snehi, are you still in touch with Bob? Oh, Snehi's gone off. Okay, bye everybody.